Present.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Hahn?
Here.
Councilmember here.
You'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilors, approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve. We have a second. And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Go ahead and move on. So we'll go ahead and open the work study, discussion regarding the process and structure of the Town of Taos budget. I'm going to turn it over to Abigail.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
And before we get started, I just want to thank the staff for, with this in the short notice, putting this together. I know I asked a lot, I just wanted it as simple as possible so that everybody had a good understanding of how we get started. So I want to thank the staff for doing this. Thank you.
Thanks. So, Mr. Mayor, council members, we did meet with the mayor, and he provided some insight as to what information he thought would be valuable to us here today. So our goal is to give the mayor and council an overview of our budget process. We'll talk about the process of Town of Taos initiatives when we begin our budgeting, and then we'll all move on to the structure. The structure will include the overall budget amount as well as our different types of our largest capital, enterprise, special fund, and our general fund. And then we'll also be providing a summary of our expenses and revenues for fiscal year 2013-14 current year. And then we'll proceed with reviewing budget assumptions and priorities for fiscal year 14-15. And we'll be closing with department presentations for our department heads. In the past year, they did provide a presentation to the mayor and council, and in that presentation they included their duties and responsibilities, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, as well as a list of their budget resources, number of employees that they work with. We will abbreviate that because there's a lot of information that we need to cover, and we can have that information in your list that we're having about the campaign. If not, we're happy to get you that information. So the department heads will provide a quick overview. We'll begin with finance, which will proceed with public works, because we have the largest departments, and they'll proceed in that fashion. Those are the largest departments, and monetarily, and we will follow. And department heads, thank you for showing up. If you do have to go after your presentation, I understand we have stuff to get done, and if you want to stay, then you're welcome to do so. And so that's my call for today, Mr. Mayor and Council, and with that, I'll turn it over to Marietta.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, town staff. I'm going to just speak, not use a microphone. I think if you can hear me, if that's okay. As Abigail said, we're going to go over the process, the structure, the current budget, and the department overview. And when we're talking about the information, it's the beginning of the fiscal year 2013-14. So just so that you know that that's where what the numbers start with. We've obviously done budget adjustments throughout the year, but you will be seeing those in the monthly reports when we present them to you at our second council meeting of each month. So what you have in front of you, a hard copy for the council member and the mayor. The first part will be your budget, the overview. We did include the budget for you on the hard copy, and then the capital improvements plan and the budget calendar, all within the book. So we'll just go forward. This is our review based on the request by the new mayor and the council members. So going through the budget process, just really what we do is we start with a 5-year budget plan. We've already presented that. We've started working that in October. We actually presented it in January to the council. We went with that plan and we did a budget retreat and set priorities. So that was the next step, and that happened late January. We are now in the proposed draft. We're meeting with the department heads, the manager, and myself to go over their budgets based on those priorities that were done. Vetting of the draft budget, we will be bringing that to you April 24th and 5th, if you see on your calendar. And that'll be a 2-day workshop with the mayor and the council, so you can see every department's individual budget, line item by line item, employee by employee. So that is still, will be coming to you in April. And then the final thing will be the council official approval. Once you meet on those budgets and you may have changes or you have something else to say, then we take all those changes, bring it back for council approval, and that's on May 27th at a public hearing at a special council meeting, I think, I'm not sure, the 27th. And so throughout this cycle, we report to you on a monthly basis. So we have the budget, and then the monthly report brings you current activity, projections, estimated revenues going forward, and that kind of stuff on a monthly basis every month. So that, in just a nutshell, is the budget process. If you see you have your calendar of events, there's a lot more detail on that, but this is just a simple budget process. What we did at the council retreat, and this is our managers and myself, we gave them budget assumptions and we gave them information to prepare their draft budget. And we're saying that we're going to do a 2% revenue growth and a 1.6 inflation increase, and that inflation increase is based on a 5-year average of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. We want to do a 50-day budget reserve, and that's in the general fund. We have said there's not going to be any new programs, so whatever's existing right now that the departments have, that's what we have planned, no new programs, and this is all based on the revenues coming in.
Maria,
yes.
Stop you real quick. The 1.6 inflation increase for the CPI, when was the last time we looked at that? Was that 2 years ago? Are we 2 years in a 5-year cycle, or is it ever evolving?
We actually just took a 5-year of the back history and just did an average.
The last 5 years ending December 2013.
Yes. No increases to current programs, and what we talk about that on current programs are pretty much the one-time programs that we may have. Those, you can see those on your budget under the, well, I'm going to talk about a fund right now, but under a Fund 30, which we have as community grants. And those are like food baskets for the youth, domestic violence shelter, safe room, those type of programs. We're not going to do any increases to those programs as we see right now. And this is all what we have already been prepared for. Lower parking meter fees, we've already actually done that. We came from $1 to 50 cents, 2 hours to 4. So that's already happened, but that was one of the priorities. Phased airport project, we've already started that implementation. You approved that one first phase. So that was one of the priorities, and we're already proceeding on that. E911. What we have right now is continue as is going into the next fiscal year. And obviously this is a whole change of whatever's going to happen. There's going to probably be much discussion on that. But this is how we looked at it a month ago. And what is this is the eco park management and maintenance. We continue to treat it as a one-time cost. It's happened now for the past, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 years, 3rd year. So we need to, the council has decided that we need to bring it in as a reoccurring cost. Between the management of, between the two of them, it's $145,000 of reoccurring money that's going to be affected going into the preparation of the budget.
I'm sorry, Maria. But by the two of them, she means the actual management of the contract for Eco Park as well as a separate contract, which is for the maintenance of the park.
Right. So, and not that this is the last, but the least important, it's just that we have a few slides to go through this. The council did express the need for deferred maintenance, and the biggest one is employee compensation. We have not received a raise in the last 4 to 5 years, and it's just something that is going to be costly to implement, but at least try to get to a certain point. And also in infrastructure. We're doing a lot of new projects, but not somewhat repairing some of our older stuff, but not to the tune that we need to keep up with deferred maintenance. This is a little bit more on the employee compensation. I know you've seen it briefly. what we've tried to do, we set up a morale committee based with directors, HR director, line employees, to help us see what we could do as employee compensation. And so this is what we see is the equity gap of people that have been here for a long time, of years of service, if you see like 25, and the newer people coming in, and how the pay is for those, the people across the board. So this just shows the, just shows the current step, the equity gap, and the years of service on this one. And this chart just shows the compensation, a tune of 348 across all funds. And when we get into the structure, you'll see what the funds are. And 61, just a general view, I think you all know what this is. 25% plus 2% for 25 employees, 25 cents plus 4% for 67, and 25 cents plus 8% for 21 of the workforce. And so that's how the disparity works of what people are either paid now and where they should be. And this isn't getting them. The next slide will show that the gap is closing, but not, I mean, you can see the gray where this first year takes care of that. But there's still a big disparity throughout. And this is more a deferred maintenance plan for going forward, hopefully for the next 5 years.
Marietta, real quick, just for the council, the new city members, can you tell them how finance and HR got to this point with regards to slide, with regards to knowing the equity gap?
And I'll yield to Morris because they did more of the behind the scenes of the process that they took.
Real briefly, the committee decided to identify individually, number one, the years of service for the employees. They decided that it was most important to take care of the long-term employees first as they get closer to retirement. The top line that you see represents all the employees and their individual years of service, and you see we go from very new ones to very long-term employees. The lighter bar on the bottom represents where those employees are now in their individual compensation. The gap between the two, between the light bar and the top line, is the equity gap. That's where they are versus where they should be. The committee decided that it was more important to take care, to address the ones farthest from their equity point first, instead of everybody equally. If you can go back one slide, this represents within the distribution of where the employees stand. Very far over on the left are the ones that are the least disadvantaged. There's 25 of them. They're 3 steps, they're less than 3 steps from their point of equity. So they would get 25 cents plus 2%. The biggest group is right in the middle. There's 67 of them. They're between 3 and 13 steps on the pay plan from their equity point. So they would get 25 cents plus 4%. The ones most disadvantaged, there's 21 of them. So the plan calls for them to get 25 cents plus 8%. Now go back to the other one. That results in the ones further to the right getting higher increases to move them closer to their equity point faster than the ones that are at or not so far. So the plan gets the ones furthest away most in line, and that was by the committee's decision. So that's what this represents.
How soon could we expect to see a readjustment in the payment plan to kind of level out those equity gaps? Because the understanding is that there's some disparity in those payment plans that some of those employees will never see.
Right, and that's you'll see that later on as one of our goals within Human Resources, to keep this committee working constantly, to have, personally, I haven't discussed this with the committee, but I think that we can commit to having it done, or at least a very, very good effort, I think consultants, done by the end of this calendar year. with assessment of all job descriptions and their placement in the proper range and steps.
If I could ask this question. If you were to put in a line for industry average for those positions,
For just about everyone, except for the ones that you see on the very far left, those bars that are above the line, those ones are probably close to industry. All the ones further towards the right are going to be, and I'm not going to say every one, but at least 90% of them would be below industry average.
Even at the equity.
Yes, even at
the question I have is more related to people getting outside of the average based upon years of service rather than quality of work. And that's because I think that we have to start looking at individual pay based upon the average industry average and making our salary is based upon what that job description should be. And bringing in line in that also what creates an ability for in-system advancement. They can look and say, well, I go to this job and when I got it pays me.
Right, and you raise a couple of good points to that, Counselor, is that this is just pure compensation. You know, I asked, well, why do people come and work for the Town of Taos? A lot of it is the benefit package. You know, and the other part that we want to address is employee incentives. This does not include the police department. The police department has a form of incentives for greater ability and greater performance results in better compensation. And we want to move to that type of concept within all the other town employees also.
And I think it would be good if we showed, even if there was just one more set of graphs in there, to show what the value added is for employee benefit. I'd like to see that. Okay. Just because that may offset some of that equity factor too. So it's not 100% paid. You know, I see our employees as being as a part, well, it is impartial to some. I mean, I think many wouldn't trade a $4 an hour raise for the loss of insurance with the families. So, I mean, I think it's important to show that split also.
I think we can incorporate that into as another color on the bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Maria.
Sure. So what we're going to do is go into the actual structure, and we try to put this into just an overall picture, not to get too much detail, but to point out some of the major things of this. So this picture reflects all our revenue sources with the entire Town of Taos budget. That's everything all together. And you can see the reserves are $14.6 million, one of the biggest things coming forward. And municipal tax, 6.8, and 4.8 for state share tax. So you can see those two combined are pretty a large amount of our revenue sources. The municipal tax down here at the 6.83%, that's a total of 1.5625 of our overall 8.1875 GRT rate. So that's what that one municipal tax pictures in the whole Town of Taos budget. I don't know if you just have any simple questions. You want to just take a look at it, and we'll just go to the next slide. So this is all revenue sources at a total of $47 million. The next one is revenues by fund. And same thing, this is the total budget again of revenue, 47, but this is now enterprise fund, capital fund. Enterprise is water, sewer, solid waste, landfill, debt service, general fund, and special community grants and capital. Capital is all the infrastructure, buildings, roads, and that. So that's a picture of expenditures, revenues, I'm sorry. Next one, expenditures. Townwide, $39 million. You can see our employee benefits and our wages at about $9 million. And That's about 25% of the overall budget on expenditures. And then capital is obviously the largest at 46%. What you see down here in the corner, you'll see what we've done is put the revenues, total budget, the expenditures of $39 million, and an ending balance of $8 million. So this picture just shows the ending balance and what that money belongs to. The reserves of 5.1 to the enterprise fund, and general fund 1.4, and you'll see the other ones there. And just to give you an idea, if you look at your budget, there's a recap sheet. If you go to that recap sheet, you can see all the detailed information, and these numbers are coming from there. So this breaks it down to just the general fund, which is our largest operating budget. Our revenues in general fund is $12,214,000, and the largest one of this is also the state share gross receipts tax and the municipal tax. So those two combined together is 70% of our revenue source in general fund. So we're very dependent on gross receipts tax in our general fund. And we don't have, the only other thing is maybe the property tax is a big amount. In general fund by expenditures by category, again, $10,795,000. Of that, you can see wages and employee benefits are the biggest part, and then going to the operations of $1.3 million for all of general fund. And on this side too, of 146 employees, or 73% of the workforce, is paid out of general fund. What we put here is just the same expenditures, but by function. You can see public safety is obviously the largest. That's police, fire, communications at $3.4 million. And if you see, the next biggest one is culture and recreation. So that's library, youth and family center, pool, that situation. And if you see, streets is at 831. So we provide a lot of the other activities for everybody around the county and the town for services that we provide. So you can see the money there is also in that picture.
Councilman?
Mary, go back, I'm going to go back to the previous. You're still on it, never mind. Well, no, but go back to one there. The employee benefits is what percentage of the employee total cost? So 40%?
38.
What is included in
And the employee benefits are the medical, the retirement, retiree health care, and whatever other, but those are the standard ones that are included in there.
workers' comp in there?
Workers' comp is in there too, but yes. Workers' comp is also in there. And workers' comp is roughly $371,000 throughout everything.
It's 10%.
Yes.
of your benefit. Okay. So when you look at that, out of the $11 million budget, you've got $7 million is employees.
$7,328,000 is employees, and that's roughly 67%. 67% of the whole operating is employees. So this is the ending balance in general fund, and based on the current approved budget. Obviously, this is going to change throughout the year, but we just wanted to present. We have our 112 state required reserve, 30 days off of general fund, and an additional 20 days in the general fund of reserve. And so you can see revenues 12.3 million, expenditures 10, and the ending balance is 1.4, and that's how it's distributed. So the next one, the recap of in your budget is special funds. There's items under special funds, and this just shows the revenue sources, 5.5 million. Charges for services, municipal tax are the two largest, and charges for services, let me just go real quick. Other than that, those two are the largest on this one. special funds on expenditures is 5.1 million. And you can see the wages and the benefits are not as big as some of the operating and contractual services and capital, because we have things like fire protection fund in special, lodgers tax in special fund, communications is in this special fund category. So there's only 33 employees, or 16% of the workforce, in these special funds. And the next one, same type of summary. You have your revenues of 5.5 million, expenditures 5.1, with an ending balance of 388. And what we've shown here is just an ending balance by program. So largest is communications at 114, lodgers tax at 73, and promotional at 79. And granted, I just want to make sure that we understand these are just budgeted figures. This is another larger fund is the capital fund, which includes all the capital projects. We have the majority of revenue sources, $15 million, comes from grants and bonds. And then the additional amount comes from reserves. So either projects that were budgeted, didn't finish it, their money comes over to complete them the next year. Capital fund expenditures, $14 million.
We just back up 1 second. The lodgers tax. Is there a breakdown? You probably don't have it here, but there is a breakdown that I can look at.
Yes.
Is there lodgers tax that is actually spent on public transportation?
Yes. Yes. And this is going to give you an overview, so like when you actually go to your budget, hopefully you'll get the concept of, okay, special fund and lodgers tax, and everything on that recap is detailed behind the budget. So, and like I said, when this is all done, I'm sure new council members, if we meet with myself and the manager to go over certain items individually, that, we're available to do that. So this is the next song. Okay, we're back. So expenditures of $14.7 million, and this is all the capital expenditures, and you see our biggest our biggest expenditure is infrastructure, $12 million. Infrastructure is airport improvements, streets, actually buildings are separate, 1.2 million in buildings. So the biggest is the infrastructure, mainly the streets, and the airport is a big part of that, $12 million. Same process, ending balance in the capital fund. We start with 15.7 revenues, expenditures of 14.7. The difference is 993. And you can see the big chunk of this ending balance goes to the affordable housing fund. And right now we have money in there, but movement is not, well, it is what it is. It's there. And the next one is the enterprise fund. So 13.8 million in revenues. Our reserves are 8 billion. And our biggest, their cost is charges for services, water, sewer, landfill services, all of the things that are in enterprise fund. If you go to the expenditure side, we only have 23, well not only, but 23 employees, or 11% are funded out of these enterprise funds. And let me just go back. The largest amounts in here are $3 million in capital and $2 million in contractual services. You'll see that the employee benefits and wages are nothing compared to general funds in this one here, but we have bigger contracts in this enterprise fund. And the same on the enterprise fund is the balance. You see the revenues of 13.8 million, expenditures of 8.6, and a balance of 5.1. And you'll see that on the, sorry, I'm not just going up. You'll see the landfill debt, operating, and closure and salary placement in the enterprise funds. Those all belong to the landfill board as a board. So that reserve amount is 1.6 million. So that's all committed to their programs. Our water rights fund reserve, $1 million. So we have a big balance there, but their reserve requirements, our asset management reserve for water and sewer, is $721,000. And everything else is identified to each of the enterprise funds that it belongs to. Yeah.
Who would know how far away we are? I know last year the estimate was 3 to 5 years on the salary placement. Do you know how far we are on that?
I think Rich is back there, but I'm pretty sure we're looking at next fiscal year.
What's the cost on
Sorry, Councilman, what was your question?
cell replacement? How far along are we looking at mid of next year to cell replacement?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, actually the design for cell 3D and 4 is right around 90% complete. And as soon as we get approval from the environment department, we'll go up to bid, so it'll be in 7 months. And the estimated cost for a full staff is right at around $830,000.
So we have the funds in the way based on what's in the reserve.
Well, there's two sets. The biggest amount in that is the closure fund. So we're going to have to find that out. We may be cutting it close. So that's what we're working on now. But the bigger amount, I think it's 687 is really for the closure for whatever has to be done in X amount of years.
Thanks, Mitch.
So, okay, so that's just an overview of the structure on the overall budget and general fund and special and enterprise fund. I'll stand for any questions if you have.
Marietta, the employee, what departments are in the enterprise fund? The water, sewer?
Water, sewer, landfill, solid waste, and that's it. And one other one, utility bills, they're in there too. And in special are communications, visitor center, and transportation.
And Marietta, on the enterprise fund, is there a reserve requirement in that would be set by the state or by?
The only one that's set by state is in the general fund.
Right.
So we have never calculated an actual 30-day reserve on each of these individual ones, but they do have some fund balances that would cover that. I mean, that could be a direction that we take, that we want those same 30-day reserves in each one of those special funds, one of those that we fund that we have.
Looking at the numbers you showed earlier.
Yeah. So we would have something solid.
This is one of the discussions that I've had with staff in the last 6 months or so, is talking about combining the total budget and reserving the police department total budget. So that when you're looking at it, the reserve requirement is much off of what it is that the council considers not just the general fund, but considers the enterprise fund and all the funds that are being operated. Make sure that we do cover ourselves. And we have been, and actually combine it with better than we take from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh yes, I'm sorry. What we have there is the 2013-14 department summary. So these are expenditures by department. So if you see the largest one, which will go first, when they present their budget information to you, is Public Works at $11 million, 11.7, and he's in charge of, well, you'll see. I'll let him spill his little happiness. It's a lot. But he will be first, and so this is just a summary between all that. I mean, what we're responsible as a department in every fund or whatever, grants or whatever it may be. So that is just an overall picture of who does what and how much they spend. So the first one will be Public Works to go over their duties and responsibilities and their work. Oh, sure.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as Marietta, Abigail, and Miranda prepared this, they kind of got into some micro detailing in here, which I probably won't go through that because I'm not that as good as they are. This is part of the strategic plan that was presented to the mayor and council several months back, and it was just a brief outline or overview as to where the department was, where the money was going, and all that stuff. So these are 13, 14 numbers. Give me a minute here. Pretty much the Public Works Department is broken down into the street division, fleet, recycling, transit, and landfill. Later on in the presentation is water and wastewater, simply because we treat it as an enterprise fund and almost a total separate entity, if you will. So pretty much we maintain 44 miles of paved roadways, 5.75 miles of gravel roadways. Those will change after this season, seeing as how we've got some decent capital monies to construct new roads versus rehabilitation of existing roadways. Fleet division, we have a fleet of 139 units. It's broken down at 72 light trucks and sedans, 14 dump trucks, 30 pieces of heavy equipment, and 23 pieces of miscellaneous equipment that they maintain.
Are these all vehicles that are running, or they're just inventory? These are all...
Mr. Mayor, they're all vehicles that are operable and that are used on a regular basis. Yes.
We don't have any that are just sitting that need to go to auction. This is all...
There are, but they are not included on this list. We do have an inventory of surplus. Recycling division. Many of you have visited that site. It's a 1 acre site, and basically it's just a drop-off point where we process the material and send it off for recycling to other plants outside of Taos, usually somewhere in Colorado, but mainly in Albuquerque. Our transit division is broken down into four separate programs. Fixed route, the Taos Ski Valley, which is a seasonal run, the Taos Express, which operates from Taos to Santa Fe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and of course the ADA handy van service, which is a door-to-door service for people that qualify to be in that program. And again, they have a fleet of 19 units, broken down to 17 buses and 1 sedan and a service truck. The landfill division, again, as you all know, you probably all visited the landfill. We process all the refuse that comes in from the entire county and surrounding communities within the Enchanted Circle. In addition to processing waste, we also do collection of methane, and we monitor 6 water wells to ensure that we are not contaminating the groundwater that's out there. And I'm happy to say that we haven't had a violation in either one of those. Several years back there was an allegation that was happening, and it turns out that it was a natural occurrence from all the basalt that the wells are drilled through, so we're safe on that. Our resources, we have 28 full-time employees, 6 part-time employees, and we just have a list of assets that's a mix and a match of all the departments and stuff. There's much more to that. And it's broken down, our budget of $6.2 million is broken down, again, the capital, personnel, and operations. And what Marietta, Miranda, and Abigail have done is, of course, they list this little number right there, that 59, that's the reference in the budget. So when you hear them talking about it's Fund 59, that's what it's related to. It's kind of their code. And basically, you can go down and see how the money is divvied up amongst the divisions within Public Works. And this last slide is what our focus is, or what our priorities are. Again, to update a traffic master plan. As you know, there's been a couple of studies done for a relief route which isn't going to happen. However, the state of New Mexico sees that as an opportunity to rehabilitate the interiors of the community, and that's what we refer back to as a master plan, which it's worked very well for us. It doesn't go into grave detail, however, it does identify the purpose and need, so we need to update that. The rest of these things right here, we're proposing to build on the current objectives that we have in place. A more detailed work order system that comes from the GIS. Again, the traffic master plan, and one of my biggest things is cross training all of the employees at Public Works. We treat everybody as an equal and don't discriminate. If we need to pick later, I'll probably be the first out there to do so, just to demonstrate that we're part of a team here. And of course, one of the most important things is to align the organizational culture with what the council's vision is, and I try very hard to do that. So again, my doors are open, and anything is offered to the governing body as requested.
French?
Yes.
In regards to the relief route, I know we had talked a few months ago with regards to going for CDBG funding for Camino del Medio, and joint collaborating that with the county, so we could double the funding. Where are we along in that process? And CDBG will be coming out. Are we ready for that? I know they look for shovel-ready projects.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, I did prepare a plan that was actually emailed to the mayor and council, and it was also presented to the commission chair and the commission, and so basically that's where we're at. We don't have a plan that's tabled or that's shovel ready or anything. Again, what my document was an overview of what I envisioned the project to be and how it should unfold, from right-of-way acquisition to environmental clearances to engineering and construction and project closeout. So it's a multi-phase project that if the two governing bodies join forces, there's a potential to apply for $1 million per year, 500 for Taos County and 500 for the Town of Taos, which at that point I would recommend that we start in the middle and work our way out. That way each entity gets their fair share, and we get our bang for the buck by going out to bid one time with one contract.
Just another avenue that we can pursue to look at probably some engineering funding. I know there was capital outlay. I think the county received $180,000. I think the town received $130,000 or vice versa. I'm not sure. And that's some money that collaboratively we could put together for the engineer services, so that particular road could be shovel ready. So that's something that we can work at town and county collaborations.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, that's correct. In my cost estimates, engineering was right at $320,000. And again, that's a percentage of what the overall construction of the roadway would be.
So, Mr. Mayor, those are funds that have been received.
That's allocated for this year. And then another question I had, French, in your capital projects and road projects, a lot of them have a match to them. I know in other governments there's a match fund that's set aside, but in this particular budget, the match is actually within the capital fund, so that when you bid the project, you have match money already built in.
That's, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. That's correct, and Miranda just bid to our capital. This sheet right here, which I don't know if you've been, okay. This sheet right here identifies all of the projects that are in the hopper and have money associated with them. There's not an assumption made in here that the money is allocated for these projects.
And that is at the end of your book.
Is it? Okay. Next slide, public utilities. I have to let the mayor and council know, for those of you that are newly elected, this department actually came in under Public Works about a year and 4 months ago. So some of this information is new to us as well. But however, in the water, we have 2,251 customers. We operate and manage 8 water wells, and we maintain 4 water storage tanks, 45 miles of distribution line. In the wastewater, we serve 2,380 customers. The reason for that discrepancy is not everybody that has a sewer service has a water service. Some of these connections are out in the county, along the trunk line to the wastewater treatment facility. So that is an option for those people that are next to the trunk line. Maintain 65 miles of collection line. We also maintain the Las Cruces Reservoir that is on Taos Pueblo land. However, it's a reservoir that will collect the watershed off of the mountain before it gets down into the Cañon area, because there's a potential for flooding. Councilmember Peralta is probably pretty familiar with this little project there. Anyway, we maintain that on an annual basis.
So, for instance, are there negotiations with the Pueblo or with the Forest Service for continued watershed restoration, or how is that treated?
For the Las Cruces Reservoir in particular?
Right.
Well, it's a Mr. Mayor, it's a permanent structure that we have a perpetual right to go and maintain. And that was before my time, how those agreements came apart. Perhaps Councilmember Peralta recalls.
It goes beyond my lifetime.
I was just curious because, you talk about watershed restoration, and making sure that you're not overgrowth of trees and that the trees are consuming the water, and, I guess asking.
Yeah.
I could believe that the reservoir is really flood prevention mechanism, not for storage of water, but also reclamation. It's just to keep the area around the Enterprise Pond property and the whole neighborhood that's built from here all the way out to Simpson.
Yes.
And down to the lower end of town, not just to keep it flood. So right now it's put in by the Corps of Engineers. I would say probably Red County.
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up and traveling there.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as a matter of fact, we have an inspection with those people today. And if we need to go maintain or whatever, we simply call up the Pueblo and let them know that we're going to be out, doing our vegetation control, and pretty much that's it. Okay. Again, here's the.
The Corps of Engineers come in and help you with that to indicate to you the type of maintenance to be done, such as grading or taking out the slope.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, they haven't, other than suggestion, they haven't participated monetarily in probably 13 years.
I'm not talking monetarily, but I'm just telling you that you need to take out 6 feet of silt. So they do that for you.
They do make those recommendations, yes. Yeah,
So we don't have to pay for engineers.
that's correct. Yeah, and that's who the inspection is with today.
With
The Corps of Engineers. So anyway, we operate with 7 full-time employees. Again, these are a list of the assets that we use on a regular basis. Pretty straightforward. Bless you. And again, we operate with the budget of $5.5 million, and it's broken down very nicely on that chart as it's indicated there. Water division, wastewater division, and of course the treatment plant, which is operated by second-party consultant. So again, we'll be more than happy to provide any of you, if not all, on a tour of that. Very interesting process, actually. At present, we're treating an average of 1.2 million gallons a day. The plant itself has capacity for an additional million, and the permit is good for 2 million. So I don't believe we will be exceeding that, at least in the next 5 years. I wouldn't imagine that happening. So. And again, since they're new.
Councilor, just 1 second, please.
Yes, sir.
On your capital project, what portion of that is the water line chip and
This one right here, Councilmember Peralta, it's for the Weimar area. I believe it's at $2.1 million of this.
And that was mostly a grant from the state water.
From the Water Trust Board.
A grant.
A grant, yeah. And again, some of this money, there's a lot of parts to that project. It's not only the installation of water lines, it's rehabilitation of some of the wells. It's to get a new SCADA system or a telemetry system. It's for a disinfecting system. It'll also be to install new totalizing meters at each one of the wellheads, and that's part of our fixed asset that we're trying to accomplish. So once that gets done, we'll have a really good jump on addressing our fixed asset requirements. Thank you. Again, we're trying to align these objectives with what Public Works is currently doing as well. So we're trying to integrate the water and wastewater into Public Works and treat them as they were part of us all along versus segregating the divisions within Public Works. And our cross training is the same with this. There's, we have Tammy, the administrative assistant. She also holds a CDL license, and she's a water operator 1. So if I need her to pull samples, she's certified to do that. So no, this isn't my job to. Okay. That's it, unless you have any questions that I may answer.
French, one more thing, we talk about, you talk about, we probably don't need expansion right now in, let's say, the wastewater treatment plant, but is there are we starting to build a fund in the eventuality that we do need to expand? Is there again, I guess that leads back to our reserve, is there a process that we can, or are we already doing that?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know how Marietta has that identified.
So currently with the wastewater treatment plant, the loan that we had, it has a debt covenant requirement. So we have to reserve up to $240,000 to replace those membranes. So that's the reserve, replacement reserve account that we're doing. And that's just for the membranes and the big pieces of equipment. So we have that and for the debt service, but not for the whole plant itself. But that's the reason that we do have for treatment plants.
Thank you.
Very good. In the past, when we had the improvements to the plant. A portion of that has been loans and a portion of it's been grants, correct?
Yes.
So can you give a breakdown as to the percentage?
I think the loan here was $1.2 million. I'm just looking around here. The new project. I'm thinking
It's not even that.
it's not even that. I think it was $1.2 million in loan and roughly 7 to 8 million in grant. So that's how it's, and that's pretty much the funding sources that we'll go to for the next time if we have to do improvements to that. And on top of the asset management reserve, that $721,000 that I have there as a reserve, that's all for water and sewer infrastructure. So there is that reserve for, in that case of the next phase of his asset management that needs to be replaced.
Or collapse lines,
Right, or lines or whatever is needed.
What I was trying to give you is that some of these projects are concerned with water, sewer treatment, there are federal grants on that to assist us to ensure that we protect our water quality in that program. So it's one of those areas that we really get good
Go ahead. Sorry.
Are we done, Mayor?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I do have one last thing to add here, and Councilmember Peralta, you had asked for this at the last council retreat, and I know Councilmember Han, your platform was to address the deferred maintenance on the roadways. I did look or did go back and gather up some numbers to do rehabilitation to the existing roadways. And one of the affordable ones is to colorize. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's milling the existing asphalt and reintroducing it back into new pavement, back into the road with new pavement. If we were to do Salazar Road, which is 2.2 miles, that would be $485,000. So it breaks down to 219,000 per mile to colorize.
French on that, all of that's from Salazar, Ranchito Road all the way to Plaza West, correct?
That's correct.
Does all of that roadway need to be colorized?
Cutlerized? Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, the majority of it does, and when you're paying a mobilization cost, you're probably better off just doing the whole thing. You get a better bang for your buck that way.
And then stopping and starting over.
And then stopping and starting.
What I was thinking of is, let's say, for example, we get half of that, and then use them also in another street that had basically the same sort of conditions to take care of. Not to put all of our eggs in this one basket, but to show some movement around the community, but not just in one thing.
Yeah.
That's all my thought.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, what I have the staff working on right now is going through our road inventory and trying to determine what is the best application for each individual road, because we probably wouldn't be able to cutterize, say, Cider Road because it's too small and their train wouldn't fit in there. So I'll provide that breakdown to the mayor and council and just show you exactly what each road, or what we recommend for each road, whether it be a double penetration chip seal, an overlay, a mill and fill, or a cutterized. And I've got all the numbers for that, and they're taken straight off of the state contract. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. French, thank you so much for your presentation this morning. Is there a word that's coming to mind is triage, but a priority list for those roads in the worst shape and an analysis of how much their travel, what kind of traffic's there. So I'm looking for a priority list. I'm sure you probably have something like that, or at least your department has an idea of who's worse. Where should we go first?
Mr. Mayor, Council Member, I do have a priority list, and the last time it was presented to the governing body was about 5 or 6 years ago. And basically what I would do is I'd bring the recommendation to the governing body and have them tell me what roads they would like to see done, because they hear from the public which roads are the worst, and that's how we used to handle it. In addition to that, I did present a very large project with something like an $82 million budget to former Lieutenant Governor Dennis, and it's like House Memorial 35, something like that. So again, the state has this on the shelf. They do know which are our priorities, and I do have them broken down per street and the dollar amount, and I'll be more than happy to provide that as well.
I guess I'd just like to state, French, that rather than us, Mr. Mayor, going through our own little personal caveats, that we rely on the professionals like yourself to actually present to us, this is worst, this is most heavily trafficked, here's our recommendation, and get away from the personal choices. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yeah, thanks.
ICIP, we have an ICIP plan, is that what you're referring to? Or is there an ICIP process through the town? I know when we go out to the state and we're looking for, state funds or federal funds, they ask you, well, what's the ranking on the ICIP? Well, where does it rank? So is that something we have in place?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, what does that acronym mean? ICIP?
Infrastructure Capital Improvements Plan.
And also, just for FYI, Councilmember, some of the stuff that has happened in the last couple of years that I've been here with regards to road maintenance and road construction, some of it is directly granted specific to those areas. So as much as there's areas we would like to address, some of those areas don't meet the criteria, but we capitalize on anything we can pick up from the source. So it's not necessarily playing a favoritism game, it's playing the game as to what fits the criteria.
I appreciate that, Councilman Gonzalez. One of my concerns is that we may be prone to the kind of mistake that a lot of entities make, which is they start chasing grant dollars and change their mission and vision to fit that current need, as opposed to having a clear, objective vision, mission, and with goals and objectives. So I agree there has to be a balance there. But I would like to reinforce French and his department to essentially guide us in making the right decision for those areas that are most heavily utilized.
And French, if we're moving possibly forward with a collaboration with the county, would you, in your mind, do you think that the coming in the medio will fit the low to moderate income levels that are required through CDBG grant funding? Yes and no, depending on which ones we do, but do you think we could, I know there's going to have to be a study, but in your opinion?
Mr. Mayor, that's a good question. I would imagine that it would have to be a county-wide study versus an isolated study, which in that case probably would.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before we go on to the next presentation, just so everyone knows, there's water and coffee back in the back.
That's the house roast.
I'm candy, Johnny.
Are there too many of us or what?
So we're going to go ahead and move on then, Marietta?
The next one will be the airport, so we'll just go in order as they come up, and the directors will come up and read that.
And Mayor, council members, is this all right right here? Can you
Go ahead, everybody here?
I'm good.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're right.
Now you might call over. Is that you might call over?
We need to have a candy jar.
Yeah. So Mayor and council members, here's our duties and responsibilities out of the airport staff, myself, and one employee. We follow an emergency action plan to respond to accidents and incidents on the airport and occasionally off the airport if we're needed there for emergency response too. We maintain the entire 832-acre airport property. We also have the ability to monitor the property remotely using our security camera system. Administrative, I take care of most of the administrative duties and the finances assistance. We prepare grants and we manage the airport lease agreements, also with the help of legal. The environmental part of it, we complete the environmental inspections of the property quarterly. And for the airport advisory board, we conduct bi-monthly meetings with the airport advisory board, and I serve as the secretary for that board. As you can see, our list of employees is pretty simple. There's I supervise one employee, and to the right you see our list of heavy and light equipment that we use, and both of us at the airport are experienced in running all that equipment. With the upcoming runway project, I know it's kind of hard to see the operating budget in the pie chart there, because the runway project is kind of overwhelming as far as the budget goes there. But you can see general fund community grants. That community grant is a annual grant from the New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division, and it is for maintenance items such as light bulbs, paper patch material, things like that. Just normal maintenance items that the state helps us out with. And for our strategic focus and objectives, they have been our priorities have been the runway construction, the master plan, and of course cooperation with Taos Budget, as well as working on compatible land use around the airport with the county to protect the airport's usefulness, as well as protecting the property owners and developers in the vicinity of the airport. I know this is kind of quick. We were asked to keep it kind of quick and simple. If you have any questions.
Now, what's the accumulation? We have a lot of accumulation of trash in here.
At the airport itself, there's...
Because of the prevailing winds and from the dump.
The prevailing winds from the dump must take it more toward the highway. I mean, there's a lot of sagebrush between the dump and the highway, between the dump and the airport. The winds shift that way. As far as the airport property itself, we do daily inspections out there because it's just critical. I mean, you can imagine a sheet of plastic or something being sucked into the engine, it would be disastrous. So we monitor that, not just daily, but all day long. Yes.
In hearing all this, it was my understanding there was going to be some kind of improvement that was provided to council for bond change on state.
Yes, that equipment is being installed in two different locations. One is on the airport property. It's about 750 feet off of the side of the runway 22 to the northeast. So it's on airport property. And there's also another set of monitoring equipment up on top of Green Mountain, which is just east of Eagle Nest. And when it's done, that will be tied together to provide not exactly radar coverage because it's not a radar type system, but it'll provide coverage of any aircraft, their position, their speed, using the aircraft transponder. It's advising an airplane that air traffic control uses to track the airplanes on, sends out ping radar, and the aircraft responds back. With that, the system will track on a screen where the aircraft is, where the head and speed and altitude is.
And the biggest component of the is the SIM type, what they are requiring over the Civic tanks. So it's a 12 or 13,000 foot SIM height, that's the lowest aircraft can.
Actually, right over the Taos Budget structure itself. And these are all requested minimum altitudes because the FAA is not willing to make it restricted airspace. But they did put it on sectional charts that pilots use, and a lot of information out there for pilots to recognize that area. But directly over the Pueblo structure is a requested 5,000 foot minimum altitude above ground level. And everywhere else on the Pueblo property over here, it's a requested 3,000 foot minimum altitude. That includes the wilderness area as well. 3,000 feet. You lose a lot of engine noise and things like that at that altitude. You don't get that loss quite as much at those altitudes. So yes, it's still kind of a low altitude. It's not going to be 15,000 feet or 30,000 feet for the airliners, but it does protect them. And one of their main concerns was the vibration, the noise, vibration caused by aircraft and the damage that it might do to the Pueblo structure. So at that altitude, you lose a lot of that noise vibration.
So with the new expansions, John, well then we have a better rating as far as VFR versus IFR?
Not really, because VFR, visual flight rules, or IFR, instrument flight rules, there are minimum altitudes set by the FAA, and it's for certain regions. Like as we have the mountains around us, so the restrictions are a little tighter here than they would be out on the plains. But we do have a GPS approach, and if somebody were to approach that way, get down to minimum altitude and still can't see the airport, then they would be in this approach. They would go around or find an alternate airport.
So then the other thing is, when you look at the airport and the expansion, the cost would be made an economy builder, you know what I'm saying? Because the longer runways and the altitude that we live in, I know a lot of the planes flying here don't fuel here because of the restriction to take off and land, with additional weight on, because the airport, the way or the runway being a quarter mile longer, are we assuming that we would sell more fuel and generate a little more GRT or fuel tax?
That's the thought on it. And it's, right now we have a 5 cent per gallon fuel flow fee that we have aircraft at higher altitudes are less efficient, both engines and electric. And actually it's about a half a mile more runway than would be bigger if you had this new runway. That'll be a huge factor for some of these jets. And we do expect them to come to the Taos rather than go to Santa Fe and are driving to the Taos with this runway project.
And then one other question, as we campaigned out there, people say, you put in an airport, an extension to these, or a safer runway, but what are we required to, because it's grant money coming in, is now opening ourselves up to, military flyovers or anything, because it was a grant base through the FFA, now we're required to do certain things because we've got a grant?
No, Mayor, John, real quick, I want to because last week I was in a TJ for a little while in the Town of Taos, and there was a lot of federal aviation officials there that said, regardless whether you have an airport or not, if the military deems need for that airport, they will take it. Of all places, Taos isn't one of those areas that they're going to want to come in and what was proposed originally. But we still just don't have the capacity to land some of the bigger military flyover jets we want. And the FAA has been pretty sensitive to the wants and asks of the community. We're just saying we appreciate you not being here. But I think the way the FAA looks at it is that in the event that it's absolutely needed, they will land at any airport in the country. It's just part of the way the market is.
And there are established routes already. I get calls from people around Attitude that we got over the B-52 model flying about 2,000 feet. And those people thought the airplane was coming to the Taos airport. Even with the new runway, we couldn't support something of that size just because of the weight of the airplane. And military planes do fly over the area. We have no control over it. The FAA has no control over where the military flies. Some of them do land at the airport, depending on the helicopters, refuel at the airport because of the range of the helicopter as opposed to an airplane. But most people in town don't even know it's because we're flying out because a lot of people never even see these military planes. It's not a lot. It's just a fraction of the traffic that we get.
And it's often really exciting too because the Forest Service is talking now about with the expansion of the possibility of actually putting a hangar out there to house one of their, planes that could do water drops. So it is exciting in that aspect. But yeah, I know logging in the Black Lake area, we get buzzed by Blackhawks or the military planes all the time, and it looks like they're using us as targets because it looks like the trees split and all of a sudden there's a plane sitting in front of you and you're like, where'd that come from?
And the last 2 summers that I've been out there, the Forest Service, they do contracts with private companies who fly over these fires and monitor. And they have been basing out of the Taos Airport. And even though they bring their own fuel, we still make 5 cents a gallon fuel for it. Even all of those who don't buy the fuel themselves. So we are a base of operations for those kind of operations.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, thank you. I'm looking forward to our meeting in Winter. It's been rescheduled a couple times. Number of flights per day are in and out currently?
Roughly, it varies by season, of course, but on average, it's between 10 and 20
And your projected, of course, the projection is just an educated guess. Once the runways are completed,
that depends on so many factors. The economy is probably the biggest factor. If the economy is better, you get more flights in the towns, more people coming here as a resort destination, vacation stop. And so as the economy gets better, actually last August we saw our highest usage month ever. We had, I believe it was about 850 operations just in the month of August last year. And then, of course, through the fall, it starts dropping off. And whether it picks up a little bit around New Year's and then it drops back off until summer. But it's really hard to estimate how many additional aircraft will come through.
it sounded like it might be a reasonable guess, might be 2,500.
That's possible.
This whole issue, from my perspective, is still I'm doing research on it, but regionalization as the town faces budget constraints is going to be an imperative. For you, or is it even appropriate for you to be reaching out to our casinos in the county in pursuit of, as we look at the master plan and in pursuit of a collaborative effort, a regionalization of the airport? The mayor mentioned the possibility of an economic development zone. Is that falling under your purview as the airport department head, or where are we going with that?
For development of the entire area around the airport, would most likely be a county plan or a city-county collaboration. On the airport property itself, Mr. Bellis and I talked last night some about reaching out to the county and even to the Ski Valley as a collaborative effort because they benefit greatly from the airport as well. So we have to talk about that.
Do you have any ideas, sir, it may be impossible to answer this question, but how many of those aircraft are actually, their destination is Angel Fire, the Ski Valley, Red River, Costilla?
I don't have those numbers. So I know a lot of people that come here, whether it be a single engine, propeller-driven airplane, or a big business jet, a lot of these people have second homes here, whether it's in town or in the valley. It's cold.
I guess the reason I bring it up is because currently we're not receiving any kind of consideration, not that we should, but just as an alternative, from the Ski Valley or Red River for maintaining an airport. I want to be a good neighbor about that, but that is an idea. Okay.
And it's just so you know, I have contacted the Ski Valley, I have put in a call to Mr. Bacon, and we're trying to get a meeting set up, so we're working on it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Hahn, I couldn't agree more because of the fact that as much traffic coming in that we see going to the airport, that I talk to, especially in the times that I've been out there, are flying in and out specifically for the reason just to ski and that type of thing. And if we start to look at larger jets, larger capability of coming in, I mean, I would assume that the Ski Valley would capitalize on their marketing efforts to start bringing, either a larger aircraft, larger groups, maybe 15, 20 at a time. I know our runway will have capacities at the same point, but I would eventually see that the amount of money these are able to forego and dump into the property itself is not make it viable. Only assuming that's going to be what happens to make it viable. Much like you see the Laughlin 8 trip by Alfred, or 2 8 trip by Alfred, which flies directly into Laughlin, city of Alfred, the little town about the size of Taos, with the exception of the casinos, but still having the capability to come back and forth between towns. And I know we've talked with our brothers and sisters at the Buffalo at the same point and saying that this helps us bringing more attention to the historic site and their Native American gaming facility, which is a large component of now the financial industries. So I would definitely ask Mr. Mayor to continue to pursue this deal, especially if we think out of anybody, we will have the largest residual effect out of the work that we're pursuing. Comes from Roland.
Just a comment on that, but under getting shaken by the military system, I play, that is a training mount for Camp Air Force Base. That was done about 10 years ago by other people. There were a lot of people on both sides of the mountain who were against that. That side lost, we won. Areas that they were concerned, concerned with the quantity of result flights in these areas for training purposes, both day and night. So that's what that is. Had nothing to do with outside.
Also, Mr. Mayor, one of the best individuals I think to tap as far as council's ones are concerned with regards to that is King Johnson. He's a veteran military pilot who would tell you exactly what capabilities and why you would get certain regions. Just a wealth of knowledge, I think, really that community.
That's very good resource. And the other thing we have that more protects our valley here rather than other areas is the way to the south. That is a big consideration.
Mr. Bellis?
Mr. Mayor, Council, we will be coming back to you in the next 2 weeks. Give a broader idea of ways that we can work on a regional basis. Unfortunately, it's all in the regional. I did have conversations, got some great ideas. We contract with fixed base operators, and so we'll have that for you. Certainly, we can do a survey program of those flights and see the plan destination. County is the flight that comes from the East Coast. And also, I think it will be on the case of the proposed 27 around the airport. It was fairly closable for negotiations fell apart between the town and county with regards to the regional airport concept with the county cost. On its own, without other partners, we get 50% of the operating suburbs for all capital. So we'll take a relook at that also and see if we can examine the past existing legislation that will allow for creation of a regional airport to divide those expenses similar to the landfill board. Help the county out and portion those out. Once unfortunate, probably that it would be based on these origin destination studies.
And also, Mr. Mayor, Rick and Jim, if you could just please reach out to Los Alamos County also. They did a regionalization report last year, or 2 years ago, that was funded for, the contract now for the municipal airlines. But they are looking for a partner. Brian Bosman, the deputy county manager, Los Alamos, is looking for a partner to partner on a grant initiative that would bring air service and keep the viability of air service at both places. And that's part of the problem they're in right now. They were under grant for the last couple of years, $385,000 grant. That grant's about to expire, but there's another one on the books that they need another community. And they're looking at Taos just because of the fact that we take the extension. And that's part of the liability as well as the safety and actually operating flights here, making dollar to seat worthwhile. We're just too many canceled flights because of the crosswinds. So I think once we get that new runway in place, there's going to be some opportunity to start bringing at least regionalized Mexico air service here to Taos.
Anything else, Joe?
No, sir.
go on to anything else for John and his budget? No? Okay, so we'll go on to facility services.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. I'm here this morning to talk to you about my favorite department, the facility service department. No offense. It was the department of the year. 2013 department of the year voted by the staff, and we also got employee of the year, Valerie Mundag, on our administrative coordinator employee of the year. Thank you all for your votes. We have 5 divisions in the facility services department. The first one you see is the Civic Center division. It used to be Convention Center division, but we changed the name and we changed the operation of that since December of 2013. We stopped operations at the Convention Center. We turned the buildings over to UNM, Rio Grande Hall, and the Town Hall on January 1st of this year. So we are now operating as the Civic Center in this building, Coronado Hall. These 4 rooms that are around the council chamber, they're still renting to outside organizations for revenue department. And we use them for the town as well. So that's what you see. They're staging events, meetings, tenant services, and those services we provide to other entities, high altitude, athletics, UNM, the municipal court, and a couple of other folks around here. We do snow removal with this group of people. There are 4 people in this division right now. It's myself, it's Valerie Mundag, and 2 Civic Center employees. We had 4 for the Convention Center. We eliminated one of those positions, and we moved one of them to the building services. Maintain roundabouts, that's important. We have under our department the maintenance of the fountains and the landscaping on the roundabouts out by the family center. Parks Division maintains the public space, and you see there a list of those things. We have Kit Carson Park, Eco Park, Fred Baca Park, the dog parks that we have, the Plaza, which is very big, and then some other areas as well. The Parks Division does the primary amount of snow removal for our department. They have trucks with snow plows on the front. We do all the parking lots that the town owns or leases. And they also host events. Solar Fest last year was their big thing with Mumford & Sons that was staged in Kit Carson Park, and the Parks Division folks were very busy putting that together, making it a success. They're very proud of what they did. We also have now, council direction, all the arts and crafts fairs in Taos will be held in Kit Carson Park and not on the Plaza. So we're going to have to experience more arts and crafts fairs in the park this year probably than last. And the Fiestas, our Parks Division, our whole department works on putting the Fiestas together on the Plaza. The Visitor Center came under us after I got here in October of 2012. It used to be a standalone organization, and now they're coming under the Facility Services Department. They greet over 100,000 people a year. They're open 7 days a week. They're closed 4 days out of the year. Otherwise, so they do a fantastic job. If you haven't been to the Visitor Center, I recommend you go. They do a very good job. They promote Taos business, and they sell products, which is another source of revenue for our department. This mug is an example. Anything with the Taos logo type stuff on the town buys and we sell at the center. And we also do art in the Visitor Center, which is local artists bring their art and sell it there in the Visitor Center, which is unique for most visitor centers in the state. The rest of the country just get out maps and tell tourists where to go. But we actually have almost like an art gallery in our Visitor Center. The town gets 5% of the commission from the sale of the architect. The Facilities Division maintains 69 facilities. That's anything from a well house in the water department to the town hall. So we have 69 facilities in various states of repair. Most of them are actually fair to poor condition, I'd say. The group does repairs, renovations, and construction. One of the things they did last year, the big first for them was the key in getting the police department moved into town hall. They did a lot of the renovation, did it in-house instead of spending the money on a contractor. It was a big job, and it was a big step. They haven't done anything like that in the past. So they did a good job of it. Capital improvement projects, the building superintendent oversees any capital projects we have. We've got a number of them going on, and I can get into detail on that later if you'd like. Taos Plaza, they do work, repair work. Most recently, they relaid some of the stone, flagstone on the plaza. Snow removal, they do walkways primarily. So the French guys take care of the roads. My guys take care of parking lots for plowing, and we also do sidewalks and handicap ramps and this kind of thing. We have 29 leases of property. 3 of them generate revenue, 5 of them we pay for. Those are parking lots. And we have 21 in-kind leases. Those are facilities like Community Against Violence, the TCA, which kind of, so we own the building, the town does. They maintain it, but we have leases with them for a good period of time. And then last, we have our custodial landscaping division. They clean 7 town buildings. It was 3, it's now 4 people. They do an amazing job. They clean like crazy. They have a lot of work to do. For the longest time, they were doing landscaping and planting flowers. They did painting baskets on the plaza, maintaining the lights all summer, spring, summer, and fall of last year. We didn't really recognize that, so we added that to their division because they do a lot of that. They do a lot of irrigation repair. They help on the plaza and La Loma Plaza, and they also help maintain the lands. Next slide, please. So this is a breakdown of our department. Myself, as facilities director, we have the Civic Center, 4 employees. That's me, Val, and the 2 people. Parks Division has 6, facilities 5, visitor center 5, and custodial landscaping 4. So there's 25 of us total to do all of it. The assets, we have trucks and equipment. There's nothing really in particular special there. It's just one thing I want to point out about that. It's just a lot of it is worn out. Its life cycle. We've got 1 new dump truck. Thank you, guys. But most of the other vehicles and equipment we have are worn out. We have CIP requests in for them, but they're further back. It's reasonable. So we're making do with what we have, but we're spending money fixing them. If we have new ones, we might not. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's the budgets we run. So the department itself is the one you see on top, facility service division. So it's $1.2 million. These other things you see underneath it are the additional budgets that we manage, and that's mostly validated. So we do the work of the facility service department, which is the first one, it's $1.2 million. The visitor center now comes under us. And then you'll see the color coding that was done by our nice finance staff. The blue is general fund. The red is special funds. So this is money we get from either lodgers tax or for other types of funding. The historic district fund is the money from the parking meter revenue. And this, I'll point out, is the current year projection. Certainly the cloud is going to be considerably less than the same year. So you know, community grants is grant money. And then we have our 2 capital. The one on top is for our capital projects. The one, the $352,000 is the settlement money for Eco Park. So we have 2, that comes from 2 pots of money, which is $272, which is the settlement, and an additional $80,000 that is in reserve for legal issues. Slide.
Brian?
Go ahead.
If we could just kind of talk a little bit about where we're at with regards to the settlement, and what are we doing finally with mediation? Are we going to fix drainage, or are we going to...
My understanding is that the settlement is complete. The money that we had is what we're going to get. There could be some further litigation, and that's why there's 2 pots of money. The $80,000 is reserved for whatever. That was my... I've had several conversations with the town attorney, and that's my understanding. I think that's why we have it in 2 accounts.
It's in the same amount, and what the 80 is the final payment that was owed to them. So we have that kind of money and then the settlement money. So I think,
They will not get either one. We're
No.
not paying out anybody, right?
We paid out, so far we paid out $7,000 out of the $80,000 to one vendor in town that had that same.
But it's not going back to the original contract.
no.
I believe we have available to spend. I was cautioned by the town attorney not to commit until we were sure there's going to be a follow-up litigation.
Okay.
And there hasn't been, so I don't know. Now, we've had several discussions about what to do with that money. We've got a list of priorities. We had a couple of discussions with the TSA. There was a special council meeting with the TSA about what the priorities are going to be. So we're looking, the town is looking at the TSA to give us guidance on how they want that money spent. So I'm working with Mark Yarovich now, the old Israel understands of the TSA. So Mark and I have been to Eagle Park a walk him through what the issues there are. He met recently with the school board. We're trying to partner with the school board to use, maybe transfer the money to them, use their contracting system, because they have the CES, Community Educational, Cooperative Educational Services. It's a procurement system where you don't have to pay. So it's kind of like the GSA in education. We could use them to expedite whatever it is we buy. Locker rooms is a priority. So we have a list.
Steve, I think the one thing I would like to stress with this whole process of litigation money, the money that's supposed to come back to us, is that I understand the need for locker rooms, I understand the liability for wanting to do a bunch of different stuff, but I think we need to fix the problems that we have there before we start allocating that fund somewhere else and just end up with more problems. So I think for me, and this was something that we discussed in the roundtable session with TSA, was saying that money that's coming back, the litigation money that's coming back, isn't going to get just used to dump a bunch of locker rooms. I mean, as much as I know they're needed, but I think there's some real upfront needs that are associated with the Eco Park to make it viable, as opposed to having years from now saying, well, we built locker rooms, but we still have this drainage problem.
Right.
So for me, it's mitigation of the issues that we have now, as opposed to just sticking it out there for other sources. So while I'm happy to entertain a bunch of different things, but number one priority with me is making sure that our facilities are doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, and a good example of that is we've had cost estimates for the locker rooms go from $40,000 to $340,000. So we have to come up with a plan of what it is we want to build there and what the priorities are. I think we have that. Fortunately, we tried at, for instance, guys came and just with a grader, put a barrier ditch through it, and it seems to have solved the drainage problem with water running onto the field. So thank you, Mr. Yes, he knows that. That was a great first. We tried it. It worked. So we'll save money on addressing that with the engineers and construction companies. But before we commit or obligate any of that money, we should make sure that the irrigation works. Yes, the drainage is correct. We also address the issue of drainage off the building. They have a drainage pond where they're supposed to go that didn't get built. They dumped the rocks where the pond was supposed to be. So, I mean, we have those kind of things that we should get addressed first. But the high dollar value stuff will be locker rooms and restaurants. That's what TSA is indicating that they want first.
So I think, again, just for the new mayor and council board, is to maybe have another roundtable discussion with TSA so that you guys can be brought up to speed as well as to desires and wants of what they want, but also at the same point from you, Steve, to give us the breakdown as to what we're in most need of as far as facilities.
Well, and the other bit of money we spent out of that settlement was $5,000 to have a company that put in the irrigation system come back and test it, because they never got, they were told to go off the job before they completed it. And so we didn't know whether it was operational, whether it was after they did grading, after the irrigation was put in, whether or not that was damaged by the grading. So the good news is they did come up. It looks like with a few inexpensive fixes, we can make the irrigation system operational. So that's another $40,000. Yeah, my understanding is that we've asked, the town has asked TSA to take the lead on what to build. And what we want to comment.
We can see that just before the meeting.
Oh, yes. And yeah, so then we get to our work plan. And I kind of got my wires crossed on what it was that this is supposed to be. This is my work plan you see here is for our coming year. And some of the things that we accomplished from our existing current year work plan are the movement of the police department at Town Hall. We replaced the TCA roof, which was one of the worst roofs we have, and we get a lot of that roof. So for $109,000, the TCA has a brand new, beautiful roof that will last a long, long time. We planted 47 trees in Kit Carson Park. That was a grant that we got from Reedley. 47 trees last Arbor Day. I'm very proud of it. It's beautiful. We've gone to the back of Kit Carson Park. That's where they are. And before it's just a barren stretch of pedestrian walkway. Now it's got trees on both sides. And, yeah, that's it. So, for the coming year. I mean, there's other things that could go on. When I got here, the staff in our facilities department was, their mentality was waiting until something breaks and fixing it, as opposed to doing preventive maintenance, fixing things in advance of it breaking. So we're working with Julie Scansey and Gilbert Martinez to get our guys to think about working that. And we're doing things like preventive maintenance of the HVAC system. We've got a service agreement for the elevators in Town Hall. Nothing's ever been done since the renovation, so we have a service agreement just for that. We've got money coming up for this year's budget to do the solar panels on the Town Hall building. And so we're trying to move in that direction, so we try to do proactive maintenance instead of fixing the broken stuff. Complete capital projects in the budget year. That's a wish and a goal for us. We've had a couple of projects that we had to extend into the next budget year, and we're going to try to work with finance and procurement to make sure we get them done in the year that they're programmed. The Youth and Family Center roof and roofs over above the pool and the ice rink and the connecting wall are in terrible condition. They're at the point of failure. And Brian and I and Julie and some roof people were up there about a month ago looking at them. And we've got a serious problem with the roofs and the structural damage they're causing. So we've got to come up with a plan to address that. And focus on revenue. That was from our last year's set of goals, and something we want to carry forward. Is we do generate revenue. Our department does. We want to keep focused on that. A lot of times, fees are waived because people don't want to pay, and we're trying to be firm and hold on that. Primarily for the Plaza and Park. And then, so our projects for the coming year are to transition Rio Grande Hall and Baton Hall. The UNM got a lease to purchase agreement, and I suspect that in this coming year they'll exercise their option to purchase. So we'll need to get an appraisal done for its value, that kind of thing. Everything we need to do if that happens to get that going. Then we have Ancianos, which we're working with the county now to transition Ancianos to the county, and we need to figure out lease them the building, give them the building. There's a lot of repair work that needs to be done that was deferred, so I met with Mark Flores last week, and we talked about it. So we've had his crew's been over there, my crew's been over there. So we're working on getting it under control, and that's one of our projects.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick. On the Ancianos building, just to put out there, it wasn't that the town's fault that the building was maintained, it was supposed to be contracted with Ancianos for their cleaning the building, and it was just years and years and years to put out, and that's why.
It's another one of our facilities with a terrible roof, and the roof's shot, and as a result, water is leaking in and it's causing damage. There's concerns about mold. Our staff doesn't think there's a mold problem now. The county of Mark is going to have some kind of mold experts come up and check. But there's a lot of deferred maintenance inside there. Ancianos is one of the in-kind leases we have, along with our CAD. They work the best at keeping up their part, and the lease says they do the maintenance of the facility. The town does capital improvements, but the tenant is supposed to do maintenance, and a lot of that was deferred, so it's going to cause problems. Arbor Day. This Arbor Day, we want to work with UNM and Los Arboneros to do tree planting. I'm a big fan of trees, so it's my thing. Taos, for the third year now, has a designation from the National Arbor Association to be a tree city, and we want to keep that going. So this is one of the things we'll do to maintain our designation. And without doing a relief project this year, we're going to try to do it for free. We're going to do pole planting, which is cuttings of existing trees and planting. Working with Paul Brian Jones, who's a certified arborist and the chair of the New Mexico Urban Forestry Commission, who's here in Taos. So, the build out of Eco Park is one of our projects. The visitor center roof is the next worst roof we have. We have a number of CIP requesting for roofs, but that's another one for this coming year. Leases, we have a number of leases are coming up, especially parking lot leases. They're all due for renewal and renegotiation by the end of the fiscal year. So, that's coming up. Mold and structural issues at the gazebo. The Plaza gazebo has mold, black mold. We've moved everything out of there. We've got water retreating into it. We're concerned about the structural integrity of it. We had Morrow look at it. We had David Henry from Henry Architects and the structural review of the whole county courthouse look at it. And everybody goes, wow, it's bad. So it's empty right now. It's not dangerous at this point, but we need to start taking care of it now before it does become a problem. So we're working on that. And last but not least, the floating trail at Baca Park is that above ground trail that the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps built several years ago that goes through the wetland at Baca Park. And we had to close it last year because beavers fell trees on it and smashed it to pieces. So we have it in as a CIP to replace it, but that's at year 4 or 5. So my staff on their own came up with that idea, so I'm going to repair what we have so we can reopen it. So we have some money in our operating budget. This year we're going to try our very best to make repairs so that we can reopen it.
Steve, with regards to Rocky Mountain and them being the individuals that initiate the project, is there anything through Rocky Mountain that would allow for trail remediation, trail maintenance? It's all money.
Yeah, we've talked to them. They want to get paid. And that's fair. I just recently, again, talked to Wedge of the volunteer coordinator. You know, their thing is that they're billing youth, and one of the things they want to show them is work hard to get paid for it. And so we don't have money in our budget to pay them, but I think I've convinced them to give us at least a day or two of volunteer work, so that they can say they partner with us every week.
Councilor Pro?
That trail was built by Brad. Rocky Mountain for applied for, and I can't remember the state or federal grant, but that's what pretty much to build that. So if you want to restore it or whatever, we have to go back and see if we can find some grant. Let them handle it. They did a good job in building this, so that's what
Yeah, it's old, and it's lived its life. And it would probably still be open now. The neighbors had to drop the trees on it. They did a good job. So we're going to go out and cut the trees out. We're going to replace the damaged sections and reopen it after this.
What kind of money are we talking about? Just that?
40, 50,000. That, I think, completes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Other questions? Thank you.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
With regards to us doing the lease to Rio Grande Home, the Town Hall, to the University of Mexico, what does that save us in terms of budget as opposed to what we'd be paying out in maintenance?
I don't have the exact number on top of my head. Valerie? We're saving, what we're saving by not being over there is utility costs primarily, which is significant. The gas, the electricity, water, alarm monitoring, any kind of repair work we have to do, all that is being saved right now. The biggest thing to me is once if and when we sell it, the capital improvement costs for both the roofs of both of those buildings, the plastering around the exterior has to be redone. The portal and the courtyard is rotten. It has to be completely redone. The floating walls inside the Rio Grande Hall is all the kind of accordion walls. They're shot. So selling those buildings to UNM will save us a ton of money in capital. Operating, and then we also, there's 2 people we aren't using any longer, but they come under lodger's tax funding, so we save the general. Yes, sir.
Steve, thank you very much. Do you have a rough estimate on the Youth and Family Center group?
Conservatively, I'd say $500,000. It's not just the roof, it's the damage that's been caused to the structure, the east wall by the skating rink. If you take a look at it, it's very bad condition.
And I don't suppose by some miraculous chance that that roof is still under warranty?
And apparently both the architect and the builder are deceased.
Deceased.
Has it just been a lack of funding over the years that the maintenance has just fallen into disrepair so bad that it's all hitting at once right now, or?
I haven't been here that long, but that's my understanding. The deferred maintenance, when it comes to budget cuts, one of the first things to do is keep public safety funded, and then everything else gets cut. So our department has to go for years. That's we need a 4% cut. So our operating budget to do repairs has dropped.
And if I could just add to that, as far as the Youth and Family Center roof, the roof that goes over the youth center itself and the ice rink, that was never constructed properly with Genwith. The person that was responsible for it on behalf of the town never pushed the issue with the construction folks, so we just accepted a bad roof. It's basically what we did 15 years ago.
Is that person still here, or are they?
No, they're not. They've been gone for at least 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, so the pitch of the roof on above the ice rink is wrong, so water doesn't drop like it's supposed to, and the evaporation is from the swimming pool. A lot of the water damage to the roof now is coming from inside the building, not from outside. So it's rising up to the top of the roof. So it's in the wintertime, it freezes, and then it thaws and it drops back down. So that roof is shot. All the insulation, if you go up there, there's a wall that you push. If you push, water comes out of the barn. You have almost no.
So when it comes to maintenance, and you need a new roof or whatever it is that you need, is that put out for RFP and several people bid on that?
Not for me. We do the maintenance now. And then Julie Stancy, who's been hired as the building superintendent just before I got back, I started to do every fall, every spring, power washing and coating the roofs. So you can like the ones we have. Some of them are now one of the failures and then we'll repair. On those roofs, there's no repairs.
So is that just like a Band-Aid that you're having to do it yourself rather than hiring a professional?
So repairs come under our department and our operating budget to replace the roof with a capital expense. So we have to have the money in the capital budget to replace it. So we got, in this current year, enough money to do the TCA roof, which was the worst. And we're hoping to get in the coming year enough money to do the business center. There's a number of them. But the cost is $110,000 for the TCA roof. And it wasn't a complete roof.
Steve, thanks again. Would it be possible for me to make a request under the UNM-Taos approval for a priority list, worst first, rough guesstimate on costs, so that we have some direction from you as to.
I have it.
Great.
I'll send you.
Just a couple of things for council to know. One is that most roof warranties are 10 years. So once you pass that period of time, and then that depends upon whether or not the contractor is for manufacturer sometimes will warranty materials, but if there's a problem with the installation, we won't warranty. Now, when we did working on the museum last month, we went out and got a warranty from the manufacturer for 10 years. And so they come out and check it every other year. If there's any problem with this, but it's a manufacturer warranty, so every contractor ceases to exist in the that. So it's very paid structure for that. But normally, under any roof that we say go off, if it's done properly, we don't have that problem. But we do have fix issues where it is done. The other thing is that on River End, the Van Hall, UNM has $4 million to spend on that project. Two ways. One is going to figure out the GRT that we passed. They've got $4.3 million in that. There's also the general obligation bonds coming up in November's election. There's $4 million for the UNM-Taos management. And either one of those funds is coming to fix those revenues. All the repairs that need to be done. And they have their architects and engineers right now finishing up their analysis of the facility. And so they'll be spending, they figure they'll be spending $40 million to get them to what they need to have. And it's already budgeted, so they don't have to go to legislature, they don't have to do anything else, they have the money. So that's a plus for the development of the company downtown area. To have that funding as a community, not as a town, or a county. So just to bring that together and help them do it. And that was one of the reasons that they looked at that facility was that they had the money to do it. It made sense for them to do that. Providing for their health care program.
So then the purchase price of the building is based on the work done?
The price of the building was based on
the purchase price, so at least that was in the purchase price.
And the council looked at that and providing enough grade to the downtown area and also providing for additional economic development. A way of taking the White House on top of our lands and putting it in something that's real money.
Was the cost benefit analysis done using the transaction?
Yes. And the savings we were looking at was somewhere in the but you have to understand that, based on not unemployed people that are moving into different departments, that total savings wasn't the same. If you take a look at that facility, you say, by not spending money on that facility, the savings were somewhere in the about $200,000. Now, that's not the true savings because we did move personnel out of that facility in terms of the truck. But that was the real savings. Total cost for maintaining this particular section of the town is about $400,000. Those two buildings, utilities, personnel, and maintenance, and all that stuff is a real good plus the fact that deferred maintenance on it, really looking at things that will cost you $150,000 to $200,000
And not only that, but we looked at, last year I got a couple of to look at the roof over Baton, and for the square footage of roof that's up there, there's literally 6 columns about the size of 8x8 that support drainage for that roof. And the roof itself is one of those tarp roofs. And just in extremely dire shape, especially because of the drainage issues and where it's going to go. Because right now it drains all off to the backside between the town hall and what used to be the Fort Church building now. So there's some real issues. I think when I sat down and looked at it and saw the amount of revenue, I understood previous council, then Mayor Peralta's prerogative to build a convention center. It was at a time when convention services were out of uptick. People were visiting Taos for purposes of convention centers. But I think just the way the economy's turned, there isn't the convention services component here anymore. So I looked at it as one councilor from a standpoint and saying, look, we have this 10, 12,000 square foot building that sits vacant 350 days out of the year. And yet we pay gas, electric, monitoring, employees for the 1 or 2 or 3 events that happen in that building per year, and saying, okay, well, I'd rather have somebody in there that contributes to the community. So at the same point, I don't want to see it go to like a dollar store or something. You know, I wanted to make sure that the viability of it still remained within this community. And for me, education was top priority. So just for history as to, for myself, where I saw this going, one of the reasons I was so prone to go with it, it wasn't about the fact that the city was going to up front and lose a big chunk of sales money out of it because it had sold it to UNM. at the same point, you know, you look at $4 million, UNM could have just built their own building for there. So I had to look at it from two standpoints of saying, well, what benefits the city in the way of contributing to the downtown area without being detriment to it, yet at the same point, like Councilor Crawford said, getting the white elephant off, you know, out of the room to say, look, now we have some viability, now we have someone that can contribute back to the community in the city's building. And I think, you know, convention services staff has done a great job with it, but again, for me, it was just saying, look, you can't, you know, based on what we support in salaries and maintenance, it doesn't make sense to us in the long run to continue to travel down this path for, you know, again, where we're going to have, buildings need to breathe, they need to live. If there's nobody in them, they dilapidate at a much higher accelerated rate than people within it. We can't force people to use them. So, you know, it was our next best alternative, and I think UNM was a pretty fit for it.
I'm going to guess too that deal was done for speed of wheels, right now, so size of it, pretty much. So
I just want to make a comment, and I go to conventions, I go to different functions at the Sagebrush, and I have for the past 7 years, at least 5 times out of every year. And I'm really disappointed that the town has let the convention center go so far and so bad that they haven't booked conventions and didn't make it a priority, because I know from my experience of going to the things at the Sagebrush Convention Center every single year for so many years, that there is a market there. I think it was just the ball was dropped and it was let go, and it's really sad for the Plaza area that all the visitors who could come to the convention center don't, and it's a dead issue. So.
Well, if I can just speak to that.
The issue with that third point, I think, Randy, you may remember the best year we ever had. Especially when that was having full marketing staff, really pushing hard for that convention center. Right after we converted the old Armory into a convention center, it was when Kimbrough built his and so then we had dual facilities for the same customers. And you noticed that our revenues kept on down, kept pushing, trying hard to get connections. The real area that killed us was about 1996, 98. We had an economic ground and conventions throughout the country just went dead. And one of the things that never came back when conventions started coming back was small conventions. At that point in time, we had an uptake in the internet. People were using internet meetings for small, 50 people conventions, so they weren't traveling to come board anymore. And so this is when we really started to see a real downturn in what was happening conventionally, not just in our facility, but to look at the information from Sagebrush, from Holiday Inn, now the Mount Fernando, you look at what's happening in Chino, and all those facilities who have meeting space, they all saw a real downturn in facility use. And this one here, at the best prices that we had, still selling tremendous. When we came back, in fact, last year, we sold for $60,000 for revenue.
30, maybe about 60.
And the biggest problem is that there's still so many other spaces open up since we built the facility that just hasn't been provided operation.
And I think one of the biggest components that you see with the Sagebrush is the hotel aspect, which is right next door. You have the catering service, which is in-house, and the liquor license, which is in-house, all of which is a governmental entity we don't have. So catering will have to come in, have to bring food. So I think the liability aspect, well, it wasn't, I can remember from the days my mom was on the council, it was built as a community-based project, so that the community got residuals out of it. But the problem was if the community itself was in an economic downturn, that ability to have conventions, weddings, any other, anything that takes place here doesn't happen. And again, so to keep it open for 10 events a year, is, as a business individual, just doesn't make sense.
So, anything else, Steve?
No, sir.
I was going to ask you about the build out of the Echo Park, but since we have so many problems with groups, I don't even want to go there.
The good news on that is we got the money. We just need to decide what to do.
Don't even want to go here this morning.
Thank you, Steve.
But thank you for the good presentation. Counselors, I just want to, I think we're going to move on to planning. I think she needed to leave. She had an appointment in Rio Rancho or something to share, that she needed to get to.
Thank you very much. I actually have a court hearing in Santa Fe this afternoon that I have to go to.
Our judge here is a little more lenient.
Yeah, well, this is the first judicial court, so basically the planning department, we have 5 staff. The staff is relatively new. I've been here for about 7 months. The building official's been here since like December. And then we have a senior planner and an animal control officer, and she does code enforcement as well, and they've been here for about a month. So we have a lot of different things that we do. We have basic administration, business registration, building, which includes plan review, inspections, permitting and certificates of occupancy, animal control, nuisance abatement, that's the code enforcement, long-range comprehensive planning, and I guess we're actually doing the infrastructure capital improvement plan as part of that, and that's pretty typical for planning departments to do, because it's all supposed to, the infrastructure is supposed to build on whatever you want your comprehensive plan to be. And then historic preservation. And then we have planning and zoning. We have planning applications that come in that need a review and approval. Permitting, like for vendors, economic development, affordable housing, records management. I put that up pretty high. When I walked in the door, our records were everywhere, and they're a mess. And we still have to get a lot of them organized so that we can find kind of what has happened with parcels in the past, and be able to like respond to public information requests, things like that. And then we have GIS, which is the parcel database. We work a lot with Ed out of Public Works. He wasn't planning previously, but we use GIS for addressing and for mapping. And planning is to be providing addresses and updating the 911 system, as well as the parcel database. So again, there's myself as the director, the administrative assistant, a senior planner, a building official, and an animal control code enforcement officer. As far as technology, our GIS is Esri product software for your parcel database, and you use it for mapping. And then we also have Llama, which it sounds like, well, there was somewhat of a contract in place when I got here, and the data was converted and loaded into software, into a database with all the old permitting records, but it was never really used. And I'm not sure about the status of that contract. The vendor's telling us that they haven't fully implemented the software yet, but I'm not sure that the town actually has a contract with them. So we are budgeting money in this year's budget to finish the implementation or to purchase a module that would work with our Encode system, which is our financial software, so that the parcel can relate to the financial, so that we can, like when we collect building permit monies or take in a planning application or do business registrations, well, we can streamline the current processes and have them all in one software package. Again, this is our budget. This kind of shows the breakdown. And then if you go to the next slide. At the top is the strategic focus, our priorities. We want to preserve the town's history, culture, and natural resources with comprehensive planning and zoning, provide timely, friendly, and efficient planning and building development review, and build on Taos' small town character, sense of community, and cultural diversity to build and enhance Taos' economic opportunities, cultural diversity, and traditions. This year's list of projects, what I'm focused on, is streamlining and simplifying the permit application process with friendly customer service and with updates to the land use development code. What I found when I got in here as a planning person is a lot of the applications are referring to the old 1999 code rather than the current code. So the applications were out of date. They need to be simplified so that they're not so hard for the customer to fill out. And then there also needs to be changes to our current code to streamline some of the processes. We've already started some of those changes. Like with the land use development code, there was a requirement for a lot of the like rezonings, conditional use permits, special use permits. A lot of the planning applications had to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission twice. We've changed that so they only need to go once. So in some cases, like they had to go to the Historic Preservation Commission first for a certificate of appropriateness. Then they had to go to Planning and Zoning for a preliminary hearing. Then they had to go to the the Planning and Zoning Commission for a final hearing. And then they had to go perhaps to the council. So we're trying to shorten the time frame that it takes for people to process applications, as well as another change that we made was that people had to do certified mailings within 300 feet. We took out that requirement so that they only need to notify their neighbors within 300 feet. The burden is on them. Except for rezonings, due to state statute, you're required to notify by certified mailings within 100 feet. So with those changes, we're trying to make it easier for an applicant to get their approvals that they need. Another thing that we also discovered is that a lot of people had approvals, planning approvals, like for plan unit developments or for like site plan developments for like condominiums, things like that, or building permits. And the economy kind of went down in and around 2008. So the council just passed a resolution that allows developers or other people that have gotten those approvals to actually not to have to go through the process of getting the planning approval again. They can get an extension to the effective start date of basically having that approval so that they can move ahead with building. So we're trying to encourage economic development at the same time. And then along with that is updating the comprehensive plan with public input. We talked about the airport. There's no master plan for the airport. You know, that needs to have some public discussion. We need to have at least an interim master plan so that we can talk about zoning. And then we need to zone the annex land within the town limits. There's 327 parcels that were annexed. Those parcels need to be zoned. Currently, we're looking at the zoning map, and we need to adopt the zoning map and then proceed forward with those zonings. And then, because we deal with animal control, code enforcement, and code enforcement also includes building, we need to protect and enhance the public's health, safety, and welfare with equitable treatment of all individuals and enforcement of all codes in a fair and considerate manner. So that's the presentation. I'm open for questions.
Have you seen an increase in building permits?
Yes, we have. Building is picking up. The economy seems to be picking up. I've had quite a few people walking in talking to me about various projects.
In the increase in permits, are they for remodels, expansions, or new construction?
New construction. A lot of them are new construction, new residential construction. We have some developments that actually had their planning approvals, like in that 2008 time period. They built out so many units They didn't build out all of them due to the economy, and they're back in. We actually have a project right now that's in town that the contractor just came in and pulled, or is going to pull quite a few building permits for $1.5 million. So, I mean, we're seeing a pickup in building, which should help our revenue.
Martha, real quick, I know we had discussed it in the past about simplifying the process for renewal of business registration licenses and stuff like that, to where customers didn't have to physically come into City Hall anymore to do it. That we implemented something to do it via online, so they can just pay the $35 business registration fee, get their receipt, and the city automatically mail that out. I mean, what is the process of that? I guess I'm just looking at it on overall burden as a business owner to say, look, if I could do so much of this stuff already online or just as a competitive basis, I mean, it saves a trip to City Hall.
We can look at that as far as part of that software acquisition. The other problem has been the code and the way it's written. There's been a lot of frustration with home occupations. The way the home occupation is described in the code is it's kind of mixed. There's not something that calls a home business, where if there's more than one person living outside the home, that's considered a home business. So there's a process for getting a business registration and getting permitted for that versus a home occupation. So there's been a lot of confusion as far as that goes, and that's made it hard. There needs to be some changes, code changes to Chapter 5. And then we're also looking internally at like how our processes work. Currently, planning does the approval of the business registrations, which basically is looking for a CRS number so that the state gets its taxes and we get our taxes. And so we're looking at that and we're approving those, and then it goes to utility billing. So we're looking at how can we inside the town actually just have utility billing, or have one person just do the whole issuance process and make it a lot simpler. It seems like it's a lot harder than it needs to be, but some of it is actually a code change, which I'll be taking to you.
And councilors, Mr. Mayor, I would highly recommend that we take a look at that portion of it, and the reason being is because previously we had the planning staff where people were coming for a business license. They were starting to border the line of legality of whether or not the business had its other licenses in place, and in all reality, the city's not that individual. We rely on the state's help, like let's say a tattoo shop that needs to have their environmental issues in check. The city doesn't border on that. Our only issue is gross receipts and whether or not they're a viable business. So I highly recommend that we take a look at that in the very near future to pride ourselves as being a business-friendly environment.
But it's just a registration, and the staff now knows that. It's just a registration. If we want to use it for other means, like for inspections or whatever, then we can make a list of those, or we can give the other departments, like the fire department, the list of all the new businesses that have registered or the renewals. And we're actually talking about the state statute changed, so we don't have to renew all the business registrations at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the calendar year. We can get them staggered out. So then it's a lot easier for the fire inspections and things like that.
To get a business registration, I guess you call it a business registration or a business license, you have to show a CRS number?
That's all that's required, is
that's
having a CRS number. That's correct.
That's what I was concerned about, so then there is GRTs that will be...
Right, right.
Ms. Perkins, you are the one that I've been most worried about as a citizen since you came on board. What we experienced out there in the community was a planning department in disarray. And so I am totally complimentary of your effort in holding that department together. And I'm grateful for your efforts. That being said, I would like to request that we perhaps have a study session with Ms. Perkins regarding her department. I have some serious questions about the appropriateness of animal control being in the planning and zoning department. I'd like to get some feedback from folks about that. Not quite sure what nuisance abatement means. It's not perhaps a very big issue. I would like us to look at the department staffing before you came on board and where it's currently at. I'm very much interested in collaborating with the county's P&Z department and need your expertise and guidance as to how we can move forward with that in an appropriate way. I don't expect you to answer this all now. You have no idea I was going to be asking this, but that collaboration is key. Another issue that you've been very helpful with is our Sapia revitalization. And I would like to begin those discussions. We need your guidance. A number of Mayordomos and commissioners, Parciantes, are concerned that construction projects are starting and you have no idea who to call or where to go. You have a better idea now, thanks to your efforts.
Well, I think a lot of it's thanks to your efforts. You compiling a list of contacts and phone numbers and things like that.
Right. And it would be at that meeting that I would actually like to propose the starting of the Sapia Commission to revitalize what once was. We don't need to get terribly hung up on that right now, but I would like to just put that out there. I don't think it's a surprise to Ms. Perkins. Another issue that I would like us to study is that a number of recently annexed citizens are having huge problems with that annexation, and I would like for us to look at our alternatives regarding that. I have no idea statutorily where we stand. We don't need to answer it today, but we do need to move forward. So rescind the annexation, find some kind of mediated compromise. I ran into a number of citizens who are on fixed incomes. In fact, they're going to vote for Mr. Baldwin and encourage them to do that. But they can't afford some of the hookup fees they're looking at and that kind of thing. We can't solve that here today, but we are going to need some time to sit down and kind of tease all of this out and get on a course. I'm very much concerned. I understand that our master plan has not been in effect. I need some guidance on that. And our revised LUDC.
Right, we have the 2020 master plan, but the revision 2020, only certain elements have been adopted, not the entire document, if that's what you're referring to.
I see your department as the primary economic driver in our community. Everything goes through B&Z, P&Z. Whether I'm starting a little social work business, that's where I go. Or I'm bringing in, a new restaurant. Everything goes through your department, and it's crucial. And it worries me that you're pretty much the captain of a ship without sailors. So the airport issue is another, everything that involves. So, Mr. Caldwell, it's all coming your way. Again, our MO is collaboration with our vecinos in the county. And just being open, transparent. I've talked to some knowledgeable people in planning, and they're mildly optimistic about how a collaborative effort might happen, but we have a lot of work to do. And I know you've got to get out of here, but so I think those are my concerns. I'm just very grateful to. I also, who is our senior planner right now?
Amy Rincon.
Rincon. And how long did Amy just get here?
Yes, Amy's been here for a month.
Amy's been here. So you've been operating the department with pretty much you and your secretary for 7 months. And then we had a big building official come on in August, Massimino, something like that, September.
It was actually, by the time he got on board, it was more like December.
And now Amy.
Yes.
And on top of all that, you get to do animal control. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. My hat's off to you for holding that department together. Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor and councilors and staff, if it's not too much to ask, I would like to have a session with Ms. Perkins at your convenience. We'll fit around your schedule, since you're the busy one here. And let's begin to tackle some of these issues in a good, forthright manner. Thank you.
And Councilor Hahn, what I would recommend is if you get with maybe Mr. Ballas and her at first, and we work out the issues, and then we move back and work and look at what the plans are.
So we'll set that up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions for Martha?
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you, Martha. Need your car started? So, well, then we'll go back up to the police department.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the police department, we actually serve a number of different functions with law enforcement, investigations, public safety, evidence functions, records management. When we talk about other services for the community, we have crash reconstruction capabilities, which is if there's a fatality or great bodily injury, we actually have the capability of doing a cause analysis. Most fatalities normally take about 80 hours worth of work or so. That's a service that we've historically have offered to the county and the state. We also do intel services, intelligence services for the different entities around us. We are heavily involved in Crime Stoppers, as well as our records management system. Just for the name file, we have in the area about 70,000 different names that we're constantly supplying this information out to their other agencies. We also do incident command services. So if there is a major event, this department has, I'm a level 1 incident commander and level 3 operations commander, and Investigator Holfelder has his certificates. We have other members in there. I'm also a trainer for the incident command system, and kind of one of the final services that we do for the community is that we have a pretty vigorous in-house training capabilities. You'll see when we talk about the budget that I really want to increase those capabilities. But every time that we have a class, we actually invite all the other agencies to come and participate, and we've actually had a lot of buy-in from that. Last year we did an active shooter training in the high school, invited all the community to show up, and had a lot of good integration with that as well. As it stands right now for the technology that we have the in-car mobile data computers, and we're in the process of trying to figure out a plan to replace and upgrade all of our technology. The body camera recording, we received a grant this year for purchasing 25 taser cameras. Those should be in here very shortly. The in-car video dash cameras. When Mr. Kinnebeck was talking about the facilities and how they were in history of only repairing things when they broke, we kind of have the same syndrome when it came to our in-car cameras. And so we're in the process of getting those fixed, but we're also looking for replacement on that stuff. For all of these technology stuff, I've been reaching out to really find as many alternative funding sources as we can. Yesterday we had a meeting with some people talking about applying for the BARRONE community grant, and I'd be asking for about $1 to $1.6 million. That was going to be tied into a school active shooter notification system, and also tied into the CAD system. So the way that grant is going to kind of pan out, I'm going to try and get all the schools, including Quest and Pinasco, to buy into this, to get some MOUs, also deal with the county, and collaboratively we're going to put in for that. And tie that money into the CAD system, depending upon where the town goes. If the town joins with the county, my intention is to have that money get funded in the county and possibly have the county do the fiscal agent for it. If we decide to not join the county, then we'll tie it into our system, but still we still have to have a collaboration with the schools and the county and state police. Sure.
Just real quick, so if there's one thing that I've had huge heartburn with over the last couple of years, and having a 10-year-old in the elementary school system, is the safety readiness, I guess. I'm not questioning you, but I'm questioning the school's safety readiness, because anytime I go to Rochester Elementary to pick up my boy, I walk right in. Right. And, for me, that's heartburn because of the fact that there is not really a formal checking process that doesn't actively put somebody in direct engagement with the students. I'd really like to see that undertaken, especially with the safety of our schools. I think it's taken too lightly in the event that a lot of people feel that's never going to happen. But I think it's a real possibility in today's day and age and just the world we live in, that it is a real possibility. So, I mean, now that you're talking about getting this, system on board, I would really like to see it to where the public schools implement a system to not just let, me having my son there, don't get me wrong, I love being able to just walk into the classroom, but at the same point, it leads me to wonder every time I do it, who else can do this? So I would like to see in that process some type of a formal check-in process implemented with the schools and stressed to the school boards how important it is. Because, Newman didn't expect it, and I know Taos definitely never expected it, but it's a possibility.
No, interesting enough, there's a couple things that law enforcement does that's really counterproductive. We will have a school resource officer, and the school resource officer will spend most of his or her time in the high school because that's where most of the calls are generated for that person. And simultaneously, we'll kind of ignore the elementary schools. When you look at which is the higher threat level, the higher target, it would be the elementary schools. And we approached the school system, the Taos school system, at the beginning of the academic year, spoke to their superintendent at the time, and we actually expressed these concerns and expressed that we really wanted to work on this, and I never got traction with that. My hope is that if we're able to get this grant and if we're able to tie in this lockdown system, that will be one of the drivers that we can have, because inside the MOU I want to incorporate ongoing training and some of these other safety factors. And I think we get the system, I think will be a real good book to actually bring them into it. So you and I are in complete agreement with that. And sometimes I'm at a loss as to really kind of how to sell that and how to get their buy-in, because at the same time we all want that, but I also don't have the funding sources to be able to make that happen. And so I need them to survive it. So I'm hoping that this will be a tool that we'll be able to wrap around.
And so again, for me, I would ask this council to flex its political muscle with our school board members as well as elected members of this community, that first and foremost should be the safety of our children. And I can see that from the elementary level all the way to the high school level. But like you said, elementary is probably the breeding ground for corruption in a way that they're the easiest to get to.
Yeah, they're the easiest, and also if something happens in elementary school, it kind of gives the most psychological impact to the community, if you will. Really, that is a weak link in here that we really need to address. Mr. Belson and I and the people yesterday when we were discussing this, we really talked about the need to really have everyone buy into this. We really need the county, the state, the school system, and that was one point that I made, which is we really need to get everybody behind this for two different reasons. One, this is a highly competitive grant, and we need to show that we're very unified in where we're going to go with this. And then the second thing is I really need all their cooperation to make this happen. So we're going to start pushing pretty hard on this. I'm cautiously optimistic. This is a huge grant, and I think we actually have enough components that we can put in place. State police has bought into it, and we'll talk a little bit further when we talk about the partnerships, but I really need data. I really need information. I need agencies to really cooperate and allow me to mine their data. And state police, we have entered into conversations about this, and tentatively they have agreed to allow Taos Police Department to actually get inside their systems. And so we're still beginning that conversation. But when we come to the partnerships of the federal, state, and regional, one of the big pieces of information that I've been missing is to really look at the data and really see where we are at in the crime rates. From the data that we have right now, for instance, for crime against property, we're showing a rate of about 7 incidents per 1,000 people. That is a huge rate. That is in comparison to Santa Fe. Crimes against persons, we're showing about 68 per 1,000, which is another huge rate. The problem is I haven't been able to really trust that data. Due to when officers are entering information, dispatchers are entering information into the system, there's a particular methodology that they need to do that. That training has degraded throughout the years. And so I have different styles of data being entered. And so what we've done, we started in July of last year, was I approached the Bureau of Justice with the National Training Technology Assistance Program, and that's a competitive program to decide. I've been pestering them ad nauseum, and this last Friday, I was told that we have been tentatively accepted and that the provider should be contacting me sometime this week. The neat thing about the Bureau of Justice is that for this grant, they hold all the money, they do all the fiscal, they just send the providers to us. And what I wanted was a complete systems analysis, and for their recommendations of technology development, where we should go, and also grant writing direction. And so that's hoping to get that done. Part of that, I needed to get the state police buy-in, so that was the other call on that. So I think we have that as well. We're National State Crime Data Systems. Also, there are two systems. One system is called Linux. The system is called Index. These are two systems, two national systems, and they're designed for agencies to import information into it, and so other agencies can mine it. The difference is that if I want to know someone's history, I can run from that to NCIC, National Crime Information Center. I will only get their arrests. To Index, I can get the history from other agencies, or from an arrest. So I get kind of more information on that person. I know that we've had conversations about either upgrading the suit or going to Spillman. Both of those systems have capability of submitting into Index. And so I'm looking forward to that happen. We are currently submitting into Linux, and so we're a Linux user, and so that is mining out as well. Currently, I only allow 3 people to gain access to it, and they're in command staff and also the investigators. As we go forward, I want to be able to open up to everybody else. The vehicle, the crash and reconstruction capabilities, we talked about that as well. And then next slide. The budgeting, when you see this budget, I'm aware that the budget is a way for me to describe what my hopes are, describe where I want the department to go. Therefore, this budget, this cycle right now, we've been moving money around so that I can get equipment, and we've been purchasing the weapons that we needed, and we're actually getting a lot of the cameras fixed, etc. This next budget year, I'm focusing on education. So you'll see that I've raised the money for per diem and then the dues and registration. Also, there is a program in there which is called the Virtual Academy. The Virtual Academy is an online academy for law enforcement, and it is touted that it will handle the biennium training for law enforcement. So law enforcement officers have to have 40 hours of particular education in a 2-year cycle. And it's a pretty neat system. When they first approached me, I was really thinking that we're talking about $4,000, $5,000 for a 2-year span, basically covering 40 hours worth of training that this agency historically has been able to knock out in a month. So they think sound cost efficient. But we're also moving into accreditation. So I'm moving the department back into accreditation, and next to accreditation, a big part of that is accountability. Have the officers read the policies, have they understood the procedures, have they been tested on that? So we approached the VA Academy, and I told them, can you create a module in which I can post policy procedure and I have a electronic signature from the officer? And they are currently working on that. If they are able to make that module work, I really strongly encourage them, we need to go down that path, because it gives us a couple things. I'm able to do that by any training. I can also put other training in there, also have accountability and policy procedures. So that's where we're going to go.
When it comes to training, how outside of the state law enforcement academy, how are these officers trained? Are they retrained? I mean, I know there's a difference between policy and real life application, but outside of their first stint to get certified as an officer, what professional development training do you do beyond it?
There actually are, and something else we've tapped into. I've really started tapping into free classes from the feds and from other areas. The training component for law enforcement officers is getting more and more difficult. Every agency is starting to scamper for more money. You'll see that the academy in Santa Fe, we used to have 3 or 4 basic academies. This year they've got 2. trying to get the money to send people to training is very, very difficult. And so historically, the Taos Police Department, we've normally kept a pretty good cadre of instructors inside the department. In fact, what was discussed earlier, the police department actually has its own separate pay plan. That is part of it. If a person is an instructor, they actually get additional money, and I expect them to use it. So it's not like they get the certification and then never use it. I mean, they're putting that slide. With the retirement of Captain Holbrook, and also with Eric Thomas leaving the department, I lost two primary trainers. Mr. Thomas was primary firearms. Captain Holbrook was pretty much everything. And so I need to rebuild those slots as well. So this is kind of an ongoing battle that we have. For all the basic training, for the biennium training, we can handle all that in-house. I want them to be at a higher level. And I have the buy-in from the officers. I've told them this is where I expect them to go. I think over the years, the department has kind of lost its base capabilities. Meaning crime scene investigation, are they collecting DNA, are they collecting fingerprints, are they actually working with photography, etc. I think we've started kind of getting away from that to some degree, so now we're pushing them back into it. The other thing that we're doing as far as staff development is, and we have 2 detectives, but we started rotating officers into detectives for a 6-week cycle, so we get them trained up on that, get them some experience, started to create a career path for them. So if they want to go into investigations, we have a path for them. If they want to go into mid-management, develop that path. If they talk about administration, and that path, and then factory construction, another path. That's been accepted very well by the officers, so I want that to be implemented as well, which is another reason why I'm increasing the dues and registration for the in the upcoming budget. So that we can really kind of work on in-house capabilities.
What's the likelihood of committing 2 or 3 officers per year going to Plaza? I was so impressed by the Plaza facility and everything that's encompassed in there, because it's not just municipal law enforcement, state law enforcement. I mean, it's Department of Homeland Security, it's Border Patrol. I mean, what I kind of liked about it was that the 11 to 16-week program that they offered encompasses everything that you're talking about: crime scene investigation, drug and alcohol crimes, everything that, maybe these guys get exposed to, but don't have the proper training to handle. And one of the biggest downfalls that I get, or drawbacks from this community, is constituent-wise and criticalness of the police department, is the timeliness in getting that stuff back to the appropriate agencies. And for me, it's saying, okay, well, what are you talking about? And they're saying, stuff that's missing on police reports, that type of stuff. So I mean, if we can cover all our bases and say, look, there's no reason why any one of these officers doesn't have the capability to handle any circumstance. And that's where I'd like to see the department go. And just into that, also just the professional development training as to how to deal with individuals every day. I know you guys are in a high-stress, high tolerance environment, but I think the more training kind of helps to offset that.
I really think that this year we're taking care of the vast majority of the equipment issues that we can take care of, and next year I really want to focus on staff development and professionals. So let's see, a lot of, it depends on which classes you go to. Some of them are like a basic law enforcement class, and that aren't really appropriate. For instance, if they have a law class, they're teaching federal law, and we seldom deal with that. So, but they do have some other courses going on. The 4-day course going on now is pretty outstanding. How well can we get people out there? Currently, we were 4 officers down. We are now 3 officers down. I have 3 people inside the pipeline, tentatively going through this. The problem is that they are all uncertified officers. We have tried really hard for the last 6 months to really attempt to grab certified officers, and we have just not been successful. And I have to kind of throw it to Mr. Morris to know where I fell on that topic. Especially, I'm talking about Los Alamos Police Department this morning. They had 40 applicants for positions, of which 10 of them were certified. And it just drives me nutty. I don't know why. And we compared apples to oranges and everything else. But where we're at right now, I kept holding out for certified officers, and finally just got to the point where I was like, I can't stay this down. So what's going to happen is if the 3 other people in the pipeline, if they're successful, while 4 officers are uncertified. So on paper, I will have full staff. In actuality, I have 4 people that I won't be able to utilize for about a year. And so we'd be investing time and energy in training them up. Which is very frustrating to me because the one thing, there's a number of things I really wanted, but the one thing I really wanted was I really want an officer in the historic district. I really want a full-time officer there. There's a number of things that officer will give these intel development, a good public relations case. There's a number of things that we as an agency, as a town, get from that. There's a number of things that the merchants look from as well. As anytime you deal with crime rates, you have what actually is the crime rate and what is the perceived crime rate. And I think with the merchants, we're balancing both of those. And I can work on both of those issues. I have some bridges I need to rebuild because when we started dealing about the officers, we also started dealing with the parking and kind of combining those two topics, which I really should not have allowed to happen. So I need to go back and rebuild bridges. But also, I need to make sure they understand that this time I can't do it. And I'm trying to get a time on this when I can. Well, depending on when we pick up the 3 people, how quickly I can get them through the pipeline. The next academy, there's one coming up relatively shortly, and then the next one is scheduled for January, February. So I may be sitting on some uncertified officers until that time, until we get through the 20-week academy. So there's a lot of things that we need to deal with. We carry basically three different budgets. Law Enforcement Protection Fund is money that comes to us from the state. We'll pay a base amount and then $500 for every certified officer that we have. We have the Correctional Fund dealing with the jail and jail placement of people. Recently, we've entered into negotiations with the county. I wanted to renegotiate the dollar amount because I want to keep the inmates here in the town. I want to keep them here. They're close. They have visitation rights for their family, which has a direct impact on recidivism rates. We have an ability to tap them into social services, have an ability to hopefully tap them into drug court. When you talk about crimes against property and drug addiction, there's absolutely a correlation that really I don't believe anyone can deny. If I can get them tapped in drug court, we can start going down that path. Also, if I keep them inside municipal court, I have a judge that knows that person and knows the history of that person. And so all this together, really hoping to work on recidivism rates, and down the line, I'd like to be able to see if we can create a probationary officer. Part-time, whatever the judge and I can figure out. So when it comes to correctional funds, if we're able to make this happen, I can see that fund getting more expensive for the short run. And I foresee us spending more money correctionally. And then as we start dealing with recidivism rate, either we'll have a real tight leash on people or we're pushing out of town. And either way is fine with us. The Law Enforcement Protection Fund, some of the issues that we have in some department is we have an aging fleet. Right around 35% of our patrol cars are from 2000 to 2005. If you look at the average miles, it's about 65,000 miles per vehicle. So that's not too bad, but if you look at all the part of the fleet, they're in the 100 to 110,000 miles. So trying to find a mechanism in which I'd be able to replace the vehicles. I did contact New Mexico Finance Authority. We started talking briefly about taking out a loan using the correctional fund. Tentatively, I'll be able to get 2 vehicles the first year, and after that, every year, I'd be able to get a vehicle. They'd go through and they would take a section of, they wouldn't take all of the protection fund, they'd probably take about half of it for debt service. So we're still in that conversation. And I know a lot of agencies do that. The problem is that on the books, we're always going to be showing debt. I mean, you're not going to be able to get on top of it. So on the books, they have a cost of debt. In reality, I now have a program where I can replace vehicles on a known rate. And so with the vehicles I'm replacing, put these other ones inside a pool and auction them off. So hopefully I'll be able to create a sustained program where we can continue to grow these vehicles. So we're still in conversation with that. a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, I'm really trying to make sure it's sustainable. For instance, for the accreditation, I want to make sure that it is funded correctly, and as we go into the accreditation, it can continue to go on its own. With the Bureau of Justice, there's a big conversation I had with them, which is, I need this to be sustainable. So we need to have this plan. I don't need to have a plan that covers a year, and then we drop it. And so through every conversation we have, I keep pointing out that this has to be sustainable. So at the time whenever I leave my post, whoever comes into place, these things will already be in function, and they can focus on where they want to go from there. So that's my hopes. Community grants, we're heavily involved with the community against violence and other organizations. I've been tapping into them for their data as well. We have our domestic violence, we're showing a rate of about 5 new cases a month. And I went to them and I said, okay, we're showing 4 new cases a month. How many new cases are you coming into you from the town? So how many are not being reported? We're showing between 10 to 15 a month. So I have that gap right there where there's some reason we're not reaching out to the victims of domestic violence and we need to find them. And so that's the kind of data that I'm trying to get whenever we move to the record management system. To find those gaps that we're not servicing, so we can try to improve on that. So I think this kind of goes through all of it. We're really focusing on officer retention. Every 6 months, I've sent out 2 different surveys to the officers. One of the questions I sent was, how likely are you to look for a new job? In July of last year, I had a significant amount, I believe it was about 20%, that said that they were very likely to look for a new job. The last one that I sent out, I had nobody in that ballpark. I had 30% in the area that they were likely to look for a job. Now, the problem with this is the very, very small sample size. So I'm hesitant to put a whole lot of energy into that, but I think, as we're saying, the officer retention area, I think we're going down a good path. The recruitment is a different story. I'm kind of convinced that to recruit officers, you need to show a big salary. To retain them, you need to have equipment. And it's just what the market will allow. With the changes to para, I really foresee that recruitment officers is going to get very, very aggressive by outside agencies. And I foresee that we're really going to have to focus on retention to keep our officers. Like I said, we want institute-driven decision-making. Same thing with the upgrade of the record management system or the replacement of it. Partnering with DGA. That really is designed to increase our intel gathering, our dissemination, our capabilities, and really figuring out where we need to put our people. And in order for us to be well effective with that, I need the county and the state and the tribe to be involved with this. And as it stands right now, I have Taos Tribe has tribal police department has thrown full support into this. The state police, I have pretty much tentative support that they will share data with us. With Taos County, with the Sheriff's Department, with the current administration, they are on board, and we're waiting to see what happens with the election. But I have no doubt that the county would join in. There really is no reason for them not. We're going to update our policy procedure when it comes to accreditation, and just kind of enhance our technology by really soliciting as many alternative funding sources as we can. And so, in regards to that, we've been working with the New Mexico Department of Public Safety with their grant writing people. That's how we got the last 2 grants. Yesterday, we were dealing with a gentleman from Advanced Communication working on that grant. The Bureau of Justice, hoping that they will put us on the grant trail as well. And then I've sent out the word to everybody who I know. If you know about a grant that I don't know about, you let me know so we can jump on it. And so, and then to really strengthen our in-house training capabilities. So, I guess, I can tell you in like 30 minutes what could have been said in about 2 minutes by somebody else. So that's over.
Any questions? Any further statements? I think you answered all my questions. Go ahead, Councilman.
Something that's a real huge concern of not just me but the community is, the increase of drug use, alcoholism, murder rate, the gangs, and I'd really like to see the implementation of the DARE program put back into the schools. to educate the kids, because it doesn't seem like the drug dealers are going to go away real quickly, but to educate our kids at least in the traumas that they're going through at their own homes. It's a big concern to me. I know you're stretched thin, but maybe a collaboration and the action system can.
You know, it's kind of as though, we can talk about as being stretched thin, but at the same time, if we don't invest energy into those areas, we're going to continue to be stretched thin. We're going to continue to be reactive to stuff all out. So I agree with you. I love to see they're grateful put inside there. And then the other thing is, like I talked about before, there's no doubt that crime against property and drug addiction are hand in hand. And so, I mean, I try to have everything pretty much interconnected to the best of my ability. I try to connect all the dots, and that was also part of the dealing with the jail, having everyone here. We deal with the children and visitation and social services dealing with them and the drug court as well. With the Bureau of Justice, so statistical involvement, so I can really point out where the problems are. So then hopefully in terms of funding, I can actually stick with where the issues are, so I get the funding based on that data. So we're trying to get kind of a complete picture on that. But I'm actually 100% agreeing with you. I mean, we need to jump on it that way.
Chief, the DARE program, is it not active anymore? I know Jameson was taking it last year. Or is it the grant? How is that?
Normally, DARE Great normally comes, well, a couple ways to do this. When the original came out, basically what happened was the folks came out with the grants to create the resource officers, and so we started off with a graduated system where police departments paid 25% salary and then converted that way. And then those officers were DARE instructors and grade instructors. And then it's kind of interesting because it was a hugely successful program, and a lot of the money's gone away for different initiatives. The hope was that this money would come out, we would entrench the officers in the position, and they would become part of the budget law. And Taos Police Department did it. That's why we have so research. I think the Taos Police Department has stayed on it. I think they have a lot of issues and programs going out there. We have not so much. And the same issue that we have with the elements. And we focus on the high school because that's where most of the calls are generated. Really, it would be nice if I could focus on the elementary schools and institute all the stuff at a real early age. So it's constantly trying to find a person trying to get the thing done.
What's the likelihood of getting, I guess, counselors training that so we can go in and talk to the schools at the same time? Because I would love to, I mean, for me to spend a day, even once a month in the public schools talking about that. I mean, I see some big disparities between our elected officials on the school board side in proactiveness with them, and I'm happy to take them on because I agree with you 100% that the fostering, the fertilization of these kids growing up to be juvenile delinquents basically starts at the elementary level. And I know my boy last year was scared to death of the effects of meth, but it was because of DARE. I mean, if they're not exposed to that, they don't know.
That's good. That's a good reason.
You'd be surprised what comes out of the mouth of babes. Start talking to some of the kids and you want to know what goes on in their house because they feel abused. But
Chief, I'm very grateful for your efforts in the departments. I'm going to take a contrarian perspective here. The DARE program statistically has been proven to be ineffective and questionable. There are some nonprofits here in our town that are at the grassroots level, and I want to compliment you, Chief, on the fact that on our Juvenile Justice Board and Gang Task Force Committee through the Juvenile Justice Board, you are extremely consistent. The Town of Taos is probably the only agency that always has a member, Lieutenant Delmage, over there at our Juvenile Justice Board and Gang Task Force meetings. We have 14 gangs. We've got close to 200 kids. And so that's a constant issue. The other highly effective program was about, I'm going to say 5 years ago, the Town of Taos gave a grant to Men Engaged in Nonviolence to help really step up the mentorship program, to take it from the little seedling that it was. And the statistics regarding that program were profound and significant. That being said, don't want to get terribly hung up there, but we're talking more about community policing, in a sense, than we are the black glove, heavy-duty enforcement that so many of our citizens seek. And what I'm hearing from our citizens is, please, we're more interested in community policing than we are guys busting down doors and that kind of thing. So just relaying that. I also, that being said, want to compliment you on the effort going last Friday over to meet with the county, talking about sleuth versus, I always call it slippery elm. He's on from the herb world. Sleuth versus slippery elm. No. And it's that kind of effort. And I think in that meeting we found a way, perhaps hopefully a way of getting you the data you need so that we don't have slippage. But those are three of my concerns: DARE versus grassroots, community policing versus black glove, and this tight collaboration with the county. So I'm very grateful that you took the time out of your day, and you're here on your vacation. Also, I'd like for everybody. So I hope you're having a good vacation.
I'm having a great time. This is good.
So that's it. I mean, thank you.
When we talk about that, of course, I'll start talking again. Maybe you're
Chief, right here.
We need that.
See, it's not that Sandy, you need to worry with us.
Have you ever known him to stop for 3 minutes?
No, I should have sat by his
We're involved in what's called 1033 program. And basically what happens is the military, that you're allowed to pick up resources from them and bring them in. And I think it kind of hedges in the area of militarizing the police department. I don't think we need to do that. In the community policing area, I mean, that's really where we need to gather the data similar to the work that we need to do. Okay? Now, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
And again, let me tell you.
He's not such a jarhead now, is he?
So we'll move on to Finance Department.
Okay. Finance Department overview. Budget. You can see all the items under budget that we do prepare, monitor, health departments. Our procurement. The procurement office is in the Finance Department. $12 million in procurements throughout the year. Manage the fuel program for the whole town. In the accounting function of the Finance Department, month-end closing, posting, manage procurement card program, the software system, the cash investment, the annual financial audit process, and the internal audit functions that each individual employee does within their respective department. Accounts payable and payroll, we pay all the bills, we pay all the people. Make sure we pay them on time. And grants management, just oversee the actual finances of the grants. All the departments have now taken their grants internally to administer for themselves. We monitor the compliance and the finances. Fixed asset administration. We have a database for all fixed and capital assets. Managed public service program. Cell phone program, monthly and quarterly lodger's tax report. It's just the person that does that has a different function of things in the department. And manage the insurance program, which is the self-insurance fund. So we oversee that program. We do the renewals. We budget in our finance department budget for general liability, property, and everything else. We do have utility billing as a division of the finance department, and they do cash collections, they do the monthly bills, send out, prepare, customer service, treat people very courteously, they come into the office, hopefully, accounts receivable, and also manage the solid waste management contract, which is waste management for the collection services throughout the town. And service orders work very close with Public Works, Public Utilities, in getting new infrastructure in, getting the billing correct, that kind of stuff. So just overall, that was it. I'm back to my staff, and I have 11 employees between myself and the Division of Utility Billing. We really depend on our financial software system. That's what we live and die on. And they, in utility billing, their little program machine there. Next. My budget is $2.3 million. Personnel 593. We do manage certain grant programs, the domestic violence shelter grant, and also juvenile justice. We manage that internally. Miranda does that. And utility billing, you'll see the operations. That big operations is mainly the contract to waste management that we oversee, and that's my budget. Our work plan. Just really a higher level service and greater analysis for the council, for the management team, and just a more oversight of the budget and the internal budgets for the departments, but more helping them to take on more duties. In the past, it's like Marietta knows everything, and Marietta should know. We now need to make sure that the departments know exactly what they have and let them run their budgets. I'm an oversight for them. So that's been a transition in training the last couple of years. Priorities, I just put what we originally worked on, our annual procurement plan. You can see that for cash flow, we've established that. We'll continue doing that every year so we can see if we have 800 procurements in July, that's not going to work for the procurement officer. So that's a plan that we have established and we'll continue working on. The Finance Audit Committee, we established that, and a monthly meeting, just all these additional things to get the department at a higher level and help them audit in the past years. Colleague review, that's just ongoing. Really haven't focused too much on that. Revise the monthly report. You'll see that at the next council meeting. Just a better way of presenting it to the council in a more summary than all of this 90 pages of information. And the annual fixed asset inventory, we've completed that, and it'll go ongoing on an annual basis at the end of the fiscal year with the departments. We'd like to get back to the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award and doing some more of that. We've done that in the past, just staff and workflow just doesn't allow us. So that is probably coming up here in the next maybe budget cycle. And our 5-year annual financial plan, we've established that, and we'll continue doing that every year going forward. And one thing that we really do need to work on is our financial management policies throughout the finance department and the town that we need to incorporate. And that we sort of already behind a couple of months. So that's going to be our priority for this coming fiscal year. And I think I'm done. I stand for any questions. I'm sorry, I'm not. Don't want to take too long, and then we have more to go. Questions?
Well, that was pretty quick. Thank you, Maria.
I saw it. No.
Yeah, I'd really like to spend more time with this. I know we have some discussion amongst us about reducing what I call the constant our expenditures or unsigned expenditures for 60 and 10, or what we call it?
Oh, our required reserve.
I understand better the procurement system, that kind of thing. So this may not be the time and place for this one, but it would be kind of useful for me anyway, just to, as busy as you are, Mrs. Vanderbilt, for us just to sit with you and go through this and see how it goes today.
Once you have some excellent staff, you go in there and sit with them.
Yeah, just set up an appointment and probably with the manager at the same time, so, and we can go through whatever, because there's a lot of detail underneath, internally what we do. We
Basically, looking at is procedure for procurement.
Oh, okay.
In other words, there is certain laws you have to follow on procurement, and policies to who does what and what are the requirements by law that you follow. That was for procurement.
Okay, and based on that, we have our internal procurement policy that exists right now that we do need to update, but that's what we're working with too, along with the state's procurement levels, and I understand that. So it would be just a meeting and explaining those levels with you. And anything else, I know that may seem to.
And one of the things that I'd like to really look into, and I haven't, because I don't have enough knowledge about it, is P cards. There's something new to me, and
Something that we will discuss, probably want to change. And already discussed that with the manager. And
a little better control.
Is a P card the procurement card that I'm noticing here? Is that essentially what it is?
I'll let Mary.
It's a procurement card that the departments have. With the new law changes, we're going to look at that, but we allow purchases of under $1,000 that are best obtainable price for the departments to purchase for those cards. And we have a check and balance on it in the finance department. We have a policy for it. But that's something that we are going to look in this new fiscal year with the new procurement, with our internal procurement changes that we need to work on under that last item.
Mr. Bells?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I'll actually make the list documents the area and some of the other managers, and we'll be reviewing that and meeting with her, and I'd be happy to include you in that meeting and incorporating the procurement policies and the basic policies. We'll be happy with those documents.
Anything else? Thank you, Marietta.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I sped through my one. There's a lot more.
The only, I guess when we sat down and did this, it would have been nice if we would have, where you have your finance director, if we would have put names in there. And telephone numbers, just so, So, as we're going through this and say, well, I want to call the director, I want to be able to find out, something, it would just be.
And just before I'm going to finish with mine, when we do go presentation to yourself, we will have actually people's names on here. Not necessarily numbers, but I think we'll give you a list that you can get together.
Yeah, we already got one.
So we'll be explaining more of the information too at the budget hearings too.
Thank you.
Of the new budget.
If you look under the government part, on the website, you'll find those phone numbers and addresses, and you can get in touch with them that way.
Thank you. So we'll go on to the fire department.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Bring before you the duties and responsibility of the overview of the Taos Fire Department. We deal with fire prevention, fire suppression and rescue, training and safety is our number one. Deal with fire prevention, code enforcement, the inspections, plan reviews, and also pre-planning of buildings in the Town of Taos, and also in our outline protection areas. Fire suppression, as you see there, we try and our goal is to respond to all calls in the town area within 20 seconds or less. And our goal is to try and keep the fire to continue to the room of origin where originally started. We're getting a lot better at that as well, response times. And that has to do to the fact that we are manning station 2-3 days a week with two personnel, so it gives the response time in both areas from station 1 here to station 2 on Santiago, quick response times which allows us to knock down fires a lot quicker and respond to any calls. Our safety, the overall department, as a combination department, we record over 4,000 hours of safety records that we turn into the state, or 4,000 hours of safety training. And that's just named to the volunteer organization. That also that does not include all the safety training hours that we do on behalf of the Town of Taos as required by us as well. We're constantly training. That in turn has helped us with our reduction in firefighter injuries or equipment.
Chief, just on your fire education, you actually go out into the schools and you're doing those educational readiness schools?
Mr. Mayor, we do approximately 1,500 to 2,000 kids a year. We have it on our work plan to do at least 400 a quarter. It's actually more than that. Yesterday alone, we did almost 220 kids. I believe our staff went out to on Head Start, and they're just so big of classes that we take. The staff takes a couple of trucks and a couple of guys, and while they're giving a brief fire prevention in the classroom, the other guys are outside showing them the trucks as well. But yes, sir, we go out to schools. We also go out to channels. The retirement goes over here because we give talks as far as fire extinguisher training as well. On our resources, the administrative fire chief, we've got 8 career firefighters. We had a total of 16 volunteer firefighters with 6 new trainee firefighters that we are currently training at this time, for a total of 30 for the combination department. On top of that, we are also we are also training members of county fire departments. At this time, we have a hazmat class that's required as a trainee to any fire department. It's a prerequisite before you go on to your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, as well as for the state. And at this particular time, I think the training class that we are doing, that staff has set up and done, is approximately 15 or 18. We've got, I believe, 11 or 12 from the newly formed Carson Fire Department that we're training along with us as well. They are immediately working very hard with them, because that's what we have to do on that side while we train them. So we're very proud about the training that we have. We have in-house trainers, and once they complete the in-house part of it, then we bring in the state, and the state brings in proctors, and they do the actual testing. So we're not involved in the actual testing, but we do have trainers on staff at this time. On our fleet, we've got approximately $6 to $7 million fleet. Goes from our 3 engines, 3 pumpers, ladder truck, our rescue, our service rescue mobile command unit, which we share with PD quite often on different scenes. Our service technical rescue truck is for our high angle rescues. It's also our light truck. We can light up a pretty good area for investigation for law enforcement, and we also lit up a pretty good area for that Mumford classes, so just for safety. We also have, like I said, command vehicle, we have a support truck with a snow plow, and we help out with the town department when we get a good snowstorm, we help them out and do a side street with that when available. And we have a capability of carrying 11,400 gallons of rolling water. By rolling water, I mean if we were to dispatch all of our apparatus to a particular fire, we would roll up to see what would be 11,400 gallons of water. Our budget is $1.1 million. As you can see, our general fund, our fire protection fund, is another one. The rural RMP, which we've got to put the R in there, that's a resource mobilization program. Is what monies out of that fund or what we make contacting our clerk's office of Forest Service if required, sir.
Councilman?
Quick question. What is a trench rescue?
Trench rescue trailer, Councilman Peralta, we have it's just a small 4x8 trailer, I guess it is, and it has all the trench rescue equipment in there. We've done several trench rescues where deceased or people trapped in there. All it is it's a trailer with a bunch of with shoring materials, jacks, plywood, to shore up the walls for when we go in as rescuers to prevent further collapse, or somebody's partially collapsed, which we've had in the past as well. And we have a trailer that is strictly dedicated to that. So if you get a trench rescue call, it's just a matter of backing up our staff truck or anybody in particular personal vehicle that has a 2-inch ball, hook it up, the closest one to it, and head right to the scene, and we have all our stabilization equipment in there. Getting back to the RMP fund, what we use those monies for is to purchase additional shovels, tents. That's mainly like for our urban interface fires and the monies that we make through contracting our equipment to the Forest Service, BLM, State Forestry. The Enchanted Circle Fire Association Fund, that fund there, all we are on that one is in fiscal agent on that. That's if Red River or for the Mini Academy, if they want equipment or stuff like that to use at the academy, they follow up procurement, and how we do is we don't use any of that money out of that fund. That's typically belongs to the Enchanted Circle Firefighters Association. Our work plan, our focus and priorities at this time are the database management. We're in the process of getting new firehouse software, which is going to help us with keeping records on our training, our pump testing, ladder testing, that our annual testing that's required by the state that we've got to maintain. There's quite a few. The majority of our budget is all used for our annual testing that's required. This software that we're in the works of getting right now will also help us with our mapping our fire hydrants, our flows in our fire hydrants, our pinpointing locations. There's just so much data that can be used on this, and we're getting right there, and we're almost at that stage where we already met with IT and put particular models of computers we need for all this equipment. So we're down to just going out. We've got bids ready, so that's any time now. It's going to take some time for us to put all the information in there, but as we're doing our pre-planning, we're automatically entering this data to be put into the software. This will also help us manage our equipment. We have so much equipment in each one of our trucks and stations that it'll help us keep track of what we have. In case of anything that goes down, we know if we just click in there and it's also part number, we go back and order it, we get it restocked. Our integration as well is continuing our training and our that's mainly it, just making sure our safety training program on there is involved with career volunteers to make sure that we have zero fatalities, firefighter fatalities, and minimal injuries. Our advanced training, we are, like I said, we'd like to continue our fire officer training and development course that we currently are doing as a combination department, and also on a training level, like I mentioned earlier with our hazmat training through the state. Also, part of that, we send people out to get certified in our hydrant testing, the full testing of our fire hydrants. But at this time, we're only doing the flushing of the hydrants and maintenance due to problems with the wells and stuff and the drought. There's quite a bit of water that's used to get the exact flow out of those hydrants. They're supposed to be done like every 7 years, so we're keeping right on top of that as well. There is approximately 455 hydrants in the town area, so that's quite a few fire hydrants. Our list of projects and objectives, our staffing, say it's 24/7 coverage of volunteer organization. The paid staff, we have people on duty 7 days a week from 8 to 5, and 5 o'clock comes around till 8 in the morning. We're all considered volunteers as well. We're all part of the volunteer fire department as well. So our basic coverage is 24/7. No charge. Equipment maintenance and replacement program. We're doing our best with what we have to try and keep our equipment, maintained as well. Like I say, our fleet is $6 to $7 million. We go one engine, that's $60,000, and we got a $20,000 budget on maintenance. So luckily, our fire funds were able to help, with that, and by us doing weekly and daily checks on trucks, it's helping our maintenance on that as well. Sir?
Oh, when you're done.
Okay. our scheduled annual testing, all these 2014 years that are under the dates, they're all coming up now as well. We got back into it, but we're 100% in compliance with, according to the State Fire Marshal's Office and NFPA, National Fire Protection Association. Our department is in full 100% compliance, so as well as ISO, Insurance Services Office, I believe it is. And at this point too, we are in class 4 in the town limits, and I got some information from the State Fire Marshal's Office on there are 99 municipal fire departments in the state of New Mexico. There's only there's 6 class 4 departments or lower. All the rest of them are higher class, so real proud of where we're standing at this particular point with our ISO rating, and we are going to work hard on our next rating to even possibly lower it down. That takes a lot of collaboration. Your ISO rating is based on your apparatus, your training, your records keeping. Dispatch has a big part in your ISO rating, and then so does your water. The water from hydrants and sources like that. We are also reaching out to the OPA, our outline protection area, and we are in the process of putting a meeting together with those water associations. And I know that once we get all our information in and we call ISO to come and rate us on those outside protection agencies, we're going to be able to save those residents doing money in the insurance bill with all the work that they've done on the water, as far as getting those, pretty hydrants and stuff out there. So once we get that going, we will meet with them and see if they are comfortable with their systems, and once they are, then we will call in ISO to come in and really inspect those areas, outline areas that we can cover. Like I said, it will help everybody involved. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that's all I have. If you have any questions?
Just a question for you on businesses and individuals who have alarm systems. How many false alarms do you get?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Peralta, for instance, for ending we go by the calendar year as far as our reporting to the State Fire Marshal's Office and our enters. Calendar year 2013 ended with 529 calls. False alarms you're asking? 2000 false alarms, we had 154 false alarms in 2013.
And that was within your area of...
Our area of coverage is also includes outside of contacts, yes. Our call volume is basically split up. It's almost a 50-50 of in-city calls and out-of-city calls. Almost every year it's neck and neck.
How many of those calls are multiples to the same location?
That I don't have on record right now. We have contacted dispatch at different times because of because of multiple alarms. One we have here in the town that's if we have the abilities, and we have been working with the previous attorney on trying to get some kind of fine system going. The first two are free. The third one is whatever. But in fact, I think the county is having that same problem with these alarms, because every alarm that we get dispatched out to, so it's law enforcement, and more than likely, if it is a structure, you'd have the med unit going out there as well. So, but multiples they've cut down a lot since our education going out several times. Okay, next time we're gonna see about we're trying to see we're going to start charging them, but it's hard to.
Well, we did have years ago, we did have 30 calls and we were charging $100. So we might want to see if that's still in place or what happened. But it did used to be.
Okay, and I think it was more of the enforcement part of it, or the credentials that you had to have to be able to cite something. It's like this was the main protocol that. But we, and my inspector has been on site this for quite some time because he's the one that's usually getting in contact with these people because of this. So I can get you those exact numbers of how many multiples. But it has been in the works as far as what we're going to do to address that problem. Because it is a big problem to us when, Tuesday in the morning we're rolling out, a piece of equipment for somebody that you can't even get a keyhole to check these out.
Counselor, I was surprised that it's as low as it is. I was figuring 300-400 calls.
And also on those, the calls that we do, just to clarify with Mayor and Council, are 529 calls. That's all fire calls, and we don't run EMS. We do med assist if ambulance needs assistance or driver, we do go help. But this also includes heavy rescue, extrication, 2 sets of other schools on different engines. So we're the ones who cut people out of the bus, but we do not transport.
So, Counselor, you can't burn the tortillas anymore.
We get a lot of calls, Steve.
Yes, he is not allowing me into vacation. I am a dishwasher, but I've got a couple questions if I could, Mr. Mayor. Chief, how about collaboration and interfacing with Holy Cross Hospital and the potential for a large-scale disaster response?
For disaster response drill, we have, in fact, like Chief mentioned earlier, Holy Cross was involved in that active shooter, most of that active shooter training that we did. We involve Holy Cross, all agencies on any big disaster drill. We had one here in Town now 3-4 years ago, when the National Guard was involved
So
in it.
it's a consistent effort there, and they've got a safety officer over there that you contact. It's been reported that there are 80 hydrants that are not up to pressure. And as I look at your work plan for this coming year, any chance, Chief, without stressing you as a department out, that we can move up that hydrant flushing and testing, or at least prioritize, kind of like French is doing now, and kind of like Steve is going to be doing with the buildings? Any possibility of checking those out and dealing with the well maintenance, which I think is a safety issue, Mr. Mayor, probably needs to be on the top of the list as we approach the summer months and travel traffic.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, the 80 hydrants, I don't know where those numbers came from, but we did have some that we were having some problems with. Those were turned into Public Works, and they looked at them as far as I know. As far as us going in for the annual flushing of these hydrants, it starts in the morning, in fact. And the ones that we had the problems with are the first ones that we're going to be looking at, and that way we can collaborate with
If you'll let us know how those.
Yes, sir. I'll keep you posted on that. Some of these ones that we're talking about are probably some that were placed on SDS, because they had just finished that paving project on SDS, but they haven't been tied in yet. See, so some of those were included on there. They're already placed in there. At this time, they are working. It's just that when you get the flushing, hydrants were in place, but they were finished with projects.
It's been reported, alleged, that really the source of some of the problems is the lack of well maintenance. So, don't know much about that, and I'm hoping to learn more from you when we get together next week.
Yes, sir. And the other thing is on these hydrants, to get the full pressure testing, you're looking at quite a bit of water per hydrant to do that. So what we're doing basically is just flushing them, which is opening up, make sure we're having the pressure. It may not be the proper pressure we need at this time, but with the drop the way it is, we get a lot of phone calls if you saw a lot of mud up the hydrant, because you got to spend so much time per each hydrant in a full to 2-3 minutes or something at 1,000 gallons of milk, you know what I mean? So that's, we try and get it as far as our driveway.
Any other questions? Not, is the wish of the council to go on, or what do you guys want to do? Well, it is a work study, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a problem, and that's, I've got clients all afternoon, so if we're going to continue to meet, I need to get in touch with them over this break. And tell them, or invite them. I'll have some insights.
Maybe your opportunity is if you want to continue this for
Another day?
Next week.
You can do that.
You can do that.
Another Wednesday.
Or we can be really quick.
Yeah, I don't know, we have a lot to cover, but, what is the wishes of the? Next Wednesday?
My only question would be, Mrs. Fambro and department heads, you've been here patiently waiting all morning. Some of you have not had a chance to speak. You know what your workloads are like. And you also know what kind of time constraints we have as we move forward in the budget. So really, we should rely on your guidance. I would think, Mr. Mayor, it's up to our department heads. They make the call, we either continue to meet because they know what kind of constraints they have. Mrs. Fambro knows from a budget perspective and our timeline, you know, how quickly we need to move forward.
Get some feedback, Marietta?
I think we're good to meet next Wednesday. We have to revise some budget meetings for this afternoon at 1:30. And we have some more for tomorrow. And Wednesday, I think we're clear. I don't have a calendar for Wednesday. We're clear.
We're clear for
So
next Wednesday?
Mayor, what I was trying to point out is that this, and now, gives the opportunity for the staff to go out and finish some work that they need to do, such as what it means for their staff. This afternoon, I think their schedule, to do that, I think we plan on just one.
Right.
And so this will give them a chance to catch up on things. Fine.
So with that said, I have a motion to table this till next Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Recess until next Wednesday.
Okay, is that one of the motion? Do we have a second to that?
Yeah, I'll say.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
So we shoot for 9.
9 o'clock next Wednesday, and we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Well, our work's done. Oh, we extended, sorry. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.